Chapter 83. Chunin Exams Part 1. Registration. Hokage's office. With the final decision concerning the Chunin exams being made, Sanada looks over the 4 Jonin commanders gathered. Your teams have shown the best results even in such a short span of time. As such, with your permission, they will be accepted to participate in the Chunin exams. Do you agree? The first man steps forward, wearing his forehead protector as a bandana with 2 red half circles under his eyes. He holds his right hand in front of him in a half sign. Tessen. Led Team 2. Chinatsu Yanagikage, Netsu Takasuki, Momiji Shigeru. Under the name Tessen Tajido, I accept their selection to take the Chunin exams. Shino steps forward next and performs the same half sign. Shino. Led Team 5. Genzai Saratobi, Kashiwama Senju, Jiriki Hyuga. Under the name of Shino Aburama, I accept their selection to take the Chunin exams. The third man steps forward, his forehead protector also worn as a bandana. The most notable feature of his being the symbol negative, shadow, tattooed on his left cheek. Kokage. Led Team 6. Tsukyu Nabe, Sancho Asakura, Mabuna Komatsu. Under the name Kokage Yanagikage, I accept their selection to take the Chunin exams. Finally, Naruto steps forward and does the same. Naruto. Led Team 9. Katori Uzumaki, Yakimaru Kagatsu, Shoto Teshin. Under the name of Naruto Uzumaki, I accept their selection to take the Chunin exams. Sanada smiles and nods. So you all 4 accept, that's good. You have faith in your students. Of course you must all be aware how important these exams will be. We may be heading to a new war, and we need our best to become even better. Speak with your students' parents or guardians and ensure they're familiar with the risk. Yes ma'am. The 4 of them say in unison. Shizune takes out 4 small stacks of 3 papers each and pushes them to each Jonin sensei. They all step forward to take the registration forms. Once, or if all parents have agreed, hand the forms to Suka at mission assignment. She'll take it from there. Dismissed. Kokage and Tessen bow before both heading out. Kokage pats Tessen on the back. I hope Chinatsu hasn't been causing too much trouble. Tessen laughs. Not at all. She's been the backbone of the team, actually. Shino prepares to follow right after them but stops at the door when he sees Naruto not moving. Are you coming, Naruto? Naruto shakes his head. Not yet, I gotta talk to the Hokage, about something. Very well. Shino nods and leaves them to speak in the office. Sanada can't help but smile at the young man's newfound tact. The kid really has grown. Naruto spins around and slams his hands on the desk. So? Granny. And there it goes. She audibly sighs. Yes Naruto? Look, I know things are real serious right now, and we probably don't have the manpower, but I got a big favor to ask. Sanada raises a brow. Oh? What kind? Katori's not really in the best place right now. She says she's fine, but I can tell she's got a lot on her mind. About that Makan guy, about her parents. I can only imagine what she's going through. Shizune says in a sympathetic tone. So I was hoping to invite some people to the Chunin exams. Maybe seeing them will help her. Who did you have in mind? Sanada asks. Naruto pulls up a chair and sit down to go over his request with her. Saratobi household. As the time has come for an important discussion, Shino requested an audience with not just his students but their parents as well to discuss the important next step in Team 5's journey. The Saratobi clan offered to host this meeting, not just to discuss their children's careers but as a bonding experience as well. In order to be able to view everyone equally, Shino Aburama sits on one side of the table while 8 individuals sit opposite him. Fusuma, Shoji, and Kashiwama Senju. Tabashi, Sayu, and Jiriki Hyuga. Tasaku and Genzai Saratobi. Genzai and Jiriki take a peek at their teammate who they'd not seen in over a week due to what they were told was extensive training. Looking him over, he does appear somewhat battered and bruised. His hands are covered in bandages, and what skin is still visible is clearly calloused. His face is also covered in scratches and medical tape. Kashiwama gives them his usual unconcerned grin and waves. Tasaku bows his head to the others present. I apologize, my wife isn't available for this meeting, she was sent away on an urgent mission. That's quite all right. Shino says. We've had a lot of emergency missions, after all. Fusuma sighs. This would normally be highly classified information, but Shino is one of the few people aware of Ikusa Saratobi's status as a high-ranking member of the Anbu Black Ops. Right now, every village's Anbu are stretched thin with the sudden disappearance of 2-tailed beasts. Shino clears his throat and presses a paper forward to each set of genin and parents. I'm certain news has reached all of you of the events that have transpired recently and have been transpiring for the last few years. We face a new threat and we must prepare ourselves to meet it. The parents each take a look at the paper. Chunin exam registration papers, huh? Tasaku Saratobi says. That's correct. Shino nods. The next joint Chunin exams are to take place in the land of water, and for them we are selecting our best and brightest to represent us. Lady Hokage has deemed Team 5 as one of the teams worthy of representing us. Alright, Kashiwama jumps up from his seat and pumps his fist. We get to really prove ourselves. Genzai and Jiriki smile, still elated, even if not at the same level as Kashiwama. We won't let you down, Shino-sensei. Genzai says. Tasaku crosses his arm. So, you think them ready? I do. Shino answers. They've shown remarkable growth and have what it takes to be Chunin. But this isn't just about the exams, is it? Fusuma shares a look with Tasaku, as the two clan leaders are more aware than most what's going on behind the scenes at the Leaf. You're correct. If Team 5 proved themselves worthy of a promotion, it would put them in the forefront in any upcoming conflicts. A promotion to Chunin would carry with it more weight than before. That is why I wish to speak to you personally on this matter, so that it's clear that we potentially head to yet another time of conflict. We can handle it, you don't need to worry about us. Kashiwama declares. Tabashi and Tsuyu exchange a concerned look before Tsuyu speaks up. What if we don't give our agreement? Jiriki whips his head back to his parents. Mom? What are you saying? Why wouldn't you? This is why I became a shinobi. To go to war? You most certainly did not become a shinobi to go to war. Tsuyu says. If you decide not to approve of Jiriki's participation, then a replacement will be found to fill in. Shino answers. Don't say that, Shino-sensei. Kashiwama chimes in. We won't need a replacement cause there's no way we're going this without Jiriki. We're a team. That's right. Genzai says. Dad, tell them, we have to do this together. Tasaku shakes his head. This isn't for us to say, Genzai. This decision is for Tabashi and Tsuyu to make. Jiriki clenches his fist. Why? Where's this even coming from? It's coming from everything turning upside down. Tabashi says. Jiriki, you're not like them. He motions to his son's teammates. Kashiwama and Genzai, they're the sons of clan heads, they have different expectations placed on them, different goals. We're a minor family from a minor branch of the Hyuga clan, we have no such expectations. You don't have to go out there and put yourself at risk. That's not fair. Jiriki says through gritted teeth. I'm good at what I do, even Lord Hiashi said so. I don't have to stay minor, I want to be better. Jiriki, please see. You're the one not seeing anything. Jiriki interrupts his mom, the veins around his eye pop as he activates his Byakugan. I can see. I'm the only one who can. He runs out of the room, afraid his emotions will get the better of him. Genzai and Kashiwama stand up and run after him. Tsuyu wraps her arm around her stomach and leans forward, her long hair covering her face. Tabashi bows his head to the host and the other guests. I'm sorry you had to see that. We'll leave. No, please stay. Tasaku raises a hand. Jiriki just needs time to cool down. I believe there's still things to be discussed. Let's just wait for them. Jiriki doesn't really get far before he stops to hit a tree in his frustration, shaking it with repeated bursts of his chakra. Jiriki. Genzai and Kashiwama approach. He rests his hand against a tree and uses it to lean over in his frustration. I didn't become a shinobi just to stop here, damn it. I'm sure we can convince them. Kashiwama says in a hopeful tone. They'll understand just what it means to you. And to us, Genzai adds. Yeah. Jiriki shakes his head. You heard them. They're fine with being in the backlines. Maybe they're right, I don't belong with clan heads. Come on, man, you know we don't care about any of that. Genzai walks over and places a hand on his back. Kashiwama crosses his arms in frustration. Well, if you're not going then neither am I. Either we do this together or not at all, so let's go and talk to your parents about it. I don't think I can talk about it right now. Jiriki says in a mellow tone. Then we'll do it later. Let's go inside. Genzai offers. Jiriki nods. Sure. After a moment of the three walking in silence, Genzai finally turns to Kashiwama. So what have you been up to, anyway? Yeah, we haven't seen you in a week. Jiriki says. Kashiwama grins. Super special secret training. Genzai raises a brow. Right. Can you say what kind or? Kashiwama takes a moment to think. Shino-sensei did say he wanted us to train together, so I won't tell you until then. He gives a cheeky grin. Genzai and Jiriki exchange a confused look. Okay? As the three make their way to one of the buildings inside, their minds racing and worrying over the possibility of them not attending the Chunin exams, Kashiwama's attention drifts to one of the verandas not far from them. The screen door is open so that the people inside are in view, sparking his interest. Hey, isn't that your brother? He says to Genzai before addressing Jiriki next. And your clan heir? The two turn their heads to see that in the room are indeed Konohamaru Saratobi and Hanabi Hyuga. Konohamaru is kneeling on the ground with a sword placed in front of him, while Hanabi stands behind him with her arms crossed. Genzai's attention is also brought to the person Konohamaru is kneeling in front of. Well, not specifically a person, he's a bit too hairy and fuzzy to be a person. Yeah, they are. And that's Master Enma? What's he doing there? Genzai wonders. That's the monkey's leader, right? Jiriki asks. Yeah. Genzai confirms. Should we go take a closer look? Kashiwama says with a comical grin on his face. A voice interrupts their little gathering from right behind them. I'd advise against that. Startled, they all jump in surprise and turn around to see Hanabi. When did? Kashiwama whips his head back to the room where now only Konohamaru and Enma are, and then back to Hanabi. You boys having fun? Hanabi chuckles. It's rude to eavesdrop, you know. Konohamaru says as he approaches, a sheathed katana in his hand. Is your meeting with Shino-sensei over? How'd it go? You all excited to become Chunin? Hanabi asks. Jiriki averts his gaze, and the three become oddly solemn. I thought they'd be in a better mood. Hanabi scratches her cheek. Unless. We were actually just gonna go to the back rooms and catch up, so. We'll leave you to it. Genzai tries to hurry along as to not have an awkward conversion. Sure thing. Konohamaru says, not entirely catching on. Then we can do some training, yeah? Get you nice and strong for the exams. Sure thing. Genzai waves back at him as Team 5 take their leave. Can I come by to train, too? Kashiwama asks as he turns around and walks backward. Konohamaru laughs. You know you're always welcome. He watches with a smile on his face as the kids head off. Hanabi, on the other hand, looks a bit more concerned. Did they seem off to you? How so? Konohamaru cocks his head in confusion. They were just eager to hang out, they don't want to be around us. He laughs and pushes away the katana on his waist so the hilt isn't in his peripheral. An act that doesn't go unnoticed. Although you're a bit off, too. Hanabi places a comforting hand on his shoulder and looks at him with a sympathetic gaze. You don't have to do this, you know. No, I probably don't. He sighs. But if we're heading to another war, I can't let myself be clouded by bad memories. I have to do everything I can and use anything at my disposal. The katana flies out of its sheath entirely on its own and swings through the air a few times before stopping and hovering by his side. Even if it means using the blade that killed my grandfather. 10 years already. Enma approaches them from behind. I know this isn't easy, but I know if anyone can put Kusanagi to good use, it's you. Honorable grandson. He adds the last bit with a playful smirk. Konohamaru visibly cringes but can't help but smile despite his worry. Please don't call me that. Remember that you have us to count on. Enma will always fight by your side, and so will I. Just as I did by Hiruzen. Thank you, Enma. That means a lot. With that, the Monkey King returns back home, leaving Konohamaru and Hanabi on their own. Konohamaru places the sheath in a strap on his lower back, and the blade slides inside by itself. Hanabi steps closer and rests her forehead on his chest. I know it's wishful thinking, but I really hope it doesn't come to that. Yeah, me too. Konohamaru gently strokes the back of her head. But if it does, this time we'll be there for Naruto and Hinata. Hanabi looks up to him and smiles. We will. Sayu Hyuga questions everything with her face buried in her hands. Did we make a mistake? Should we have just agreed to it? Fusuma places a comforting hand on her shoulder. You're doing what you think is right. Tasaku sighs. At the end of the day, you are correct. Genzai and Kashiwama have different expectations placed on them. Jiriki needn't travel at their pace. Tabashi looks to Shino with a conflicted expression. But can't he, Shino-sensei? Shino nods. I believe he can and does, yes. He's strong, capable, and smart. He could very well stand beside the best. At the end of the day, he's still your son first and foremost. Fusuma says. They like to think of themselves as all grown up just because they're genin, but there's still much they don't know about. So despite how ready they feel, it's still up to us to take care of them as their parents. Jiriki can't see your point of view just yet, but he eventually will. Tasaku says. Sayu looks to Shino for advice as well. If it were entirely up to you, would you let Jiriki take part? Do you believe he has what it takes? Shino takes a moment to gather his thoughts. That's a difficult question. I have a different perspective than a Genin's parent. I'm the one who's instilled in them the core values of a shinobi and taught them how to operate. I would very much like to believe that my teaching has been enough thus far and prepared them for what lies ahead. However, I have a teacher's bias. So that's what it was all about. A foreign voice grabs their attention from the doorway. Everyone turns around to see one Hanabi Hyuga leaning against the entryway, with Konohamaru Saratobi walking behind her to join her. Lady Hanabi. Tabashi and Tsuyu are quick to bow. What brings you here? Hanabi points to the young man behind her. My boyfriend lives here. Konohamaru's expression turns to one of giddy and goofy excitement as his face reddens. Oh, you're saying it out loud now. Don't make this weird. She throws a quick glance back. Sorry. Hanabi walks over and sits by Tabashi and Tsuyu's side. I saw Jiriki earlier. I expected them to be more excited about the Chunin exams, but I guess I see why they weren't. We're terribly sorry for worrying you with this. Tabashi bows his head once again. You really don't need to do that. Hanabi sighs. Look, aren't you overthinking this a little? She then turns to the other parents and clan heads. And aren't you trying too hard to remain passive in this? Fusuma scratches her cheek in embarrassment. Well, we don't want to influence them with our own choices. Tasaku crosses his arms. And besides, Genzai and Kashiwama put even more pressure on them by declaring they wouldn't participate without Jiriki. I know they're still young, but still. The Chunin exams aren't what they were back in your day, are they? This is the Shinobi Union, where everyone's working together and helping each other, so it's not going to be like before the Fourth War, correct? We're competing with friends and allies, not enemies. I suppose that's true. Tsuyu says. So, what's the worst that could happen? If he fails, then he comes back and will try again in a couple years when he's grown. If he passes, then he proves he's capable of standing beside the best. Hanabi shrugs. You're stressing over it too much. Tabashi says. Perhaps you're right. May we have some more time to think on it? Tsuyu asks. Of course. Shino responds. I'll await your response. Thank you. Uzumaki household. In another part of the leaf, Naruto has also gathered his own students and their families to tell them about the upcoming grand event. Naruto sits on an armchair opposite of everyone else to be able to look at and address them all equally. Shoto Teshin, Yakimaru Kagatsu, and Katori Uzumaki are all sitting on the ground in front of the table, with all of their parents occupying the living room sofa. Shoto's parents, Itasaka and Asami Teshin, Yakimaru's mom and stepdad, Yoi Kagatsu and Teuchi, and finally, both of Katori's parents, Naruto and Hinata Uzumaki. Whereas the Naruto that's sitting opposite them all is dressed in his standard Jonin uniform and orange cloak, the Naruto sitting on the couch is dressed in everyday clothes and has a mustache for some reason. Dad Naruto leans forward after placing his hands on his elbows for support. Naruto-sensei, has my daughter done something wrong? There's nothing to worry about, Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto-sensei reassures him despite obviously not needing to. Dad Naruto leans back and shakes his head. She's always been a troublemaker. He turns to Hinata. She gets that from you, you know. Hinata is trying her very best not to burst into laughter at the play in front of her. Yes, dear. Katori buries her face in her palms. Dad, please stop. Yakimaru and Shoto are openly giggling at their sensei's antics. Dad Naruto turns to the other parents and bows. I hope my daughter hasn't been causing too much trouble. No, not at all. Yoi laughs as she responds. Dad. Katori pulls her head up and looks at him with reddened cheeks. Naruto laughs and dismisses the shadow clone. All right. Katori can only grumble in embarrassment. Naruto places 3 papers on the table, one in front of each family. So, you've probably heard about the Chunin exams. It's gonna be a big one this time and Granny and the rest picked out the top teams. I can hardly believe our Shoto has done so well as a shinobi. Asami says with a smile. Shoto smirks. Of course I did. But I do have to warn you all. If any of them do get to Chunin, they'll be in charge of leading missions and we're facing a serious enemy right now. We might be headed to another war. The future might be dangerous. Itasaka leans back and crosses his arms. There's a part of me that believes it would be a mistake, however I've come to realize my lapses in judgment. If the Hokage and you believe them to be ready, then I'll trust your decision. Itasaka signs his name on Shoto's form, as does Asami. Yoi looks down at her son and brushes his light blue hair, a spitting image of his father's. I don't think I'll truly ever stop worrying. A shinobi's job is dangerous. I knew that when I agreed for you to teach him. I don't know what I'd do if anything happened to him, too, but I don't think I have the heart to stop him after he's come so far." She leans forward and signs her name on the form before sliding the paper over to Teuchi. Teuchi looks hesitant. "I don't think I should. I mean, I'm not." He looks down to Yakimaru. Yakimaru pushes the registration form further toward Teuchi without turning his head. "Would you sign it?" Teuchi's eyes immediately begin to water, which he tries to hide with a wide smile. "I'd be happy to." He reaches over and signs his name as Yakimaru's father. He leans back and tries to quickly brush his eyes. Yoi smiles and places a hand over his. Finally, both Naruto and Hinata sign Katori's papers with no hesitation. "All right." Naruto grabs the 3 forms and puts them in a pile. "With this, we're all set for the Chunin exams." He looks over his students with a serious, discerning gaze. "Just know that whatever happens at the exams, we're not gonna be Team 9 anymore. We'll be Team Naruto. You won't just be Genin I'm teaching, but shinobi who have what it takes to climb to Chunin and Jonin. Things'll be different from now on." "Yes, sensei." All 3 say in unison. "Take the day off. Tomorrow, we start training harder than ever. How about we have a celebratory lunch?" Hinata offers. "It's rare that we all gather like this, so we should make the best of it." "That does sound wonderful." Yoi says and looks around if the others are in agreement. Itasaka nods. "That would be pleasant. So it's decided." Asami smiles. "Then how about going to Ramen Ichiraku?" Teuchi offers. "My treat." "Awesome." Naruto pumps his fist. "Let's go." Teuchi's demeanor drops when he sees Naruto's enthusiasm. He got caught up in the excitement and forgot who was part of the conversation. This is going to cost him. Ramen Ichiraku. After a pleasant afternoon of eating, Team 9 plus parents sit at their table to talk while Ayama keeps the place running and serving other customers. One of the workers comes by the table to clear the dozen or so bowls that Naruto alone ate while everyone else capped at 1. Although where others see bowls, Teuchi sees Ryo burning away. As they sit and talk about the more mundane day-to-day happenings in their lives, Katori's attention is brought to the front door where she spots Kashiwama and Genzai entering. She waves to them and hops to her feet to go and greet them. "Hey, you two." "Hey, Katori, did you miss me?" Kashiwama grins. Katori chuckles. "Maybe a little. You guys celebrating something?" Genzai nods his head to their table. Naruto looks back and waves the boys. Kashiwama eagerly waves back. At this point, Yakimaru and Shoto also go to meet them. "We are," Katori answers. "Celebrating going to the Chunin exams. Aren't you guys too?" Genzai slightly winces. "We're not sure if we're going." "Why?" Katori questions. "Is Shino-sensei not letting you?" Yakimaru asks. "No, it's not that." Genzai shakes his head. "Jiriki's parents aren't sure about signing off on it. And I don't think I want to take the exams with Jiriki." Kashiwama says. "I feel the same." Genzai adds. "No way." Katori gasps. "They can't do that, can they? I mean, I suppose they can." Yakimaru says. "That's what the forms were for, right? Why wouldn't they sign him up for it?" Shoto asks. "He's he's decent enough, I guess." Genzai chuckles lightly at Shoto's recognition. "He is, but his parents are worried about him." "But they have nothing to worry about, Jiriki is Jiriki, so there's no need to worry for him." Katori retorts. Genzai sighs. "As much I can't disagree with that, there's not much we can. Let's pay him a visit." Katori blurts out, and before Genzai can even register, she's heading out the door. "Oi, hold up, you can't walk over just like that." Genzai calls out to her. "Watch me." Kashiwama shrugs, "I guess we can." And follows after her. "Welcome to our world." Shoto pats Genzai on the shoulder. "We may as well go with her." Seeing no other course of action, Genzai, Shoto, and Yakimaru run after her at the very least to make sure she doesn't say something to make matters worse. "You kids have fun." Naruto calls to them from his seat. Hyuga Clan District. "Hey, Jiriki." Katori shouts at the top of her lungs. Gaining access to the Hyuga clan's compound is a relatively easy task for the group. Genzai and Kashiwama are well-known faces around here, and there's also Katori, who everyone is well aware to be Hinata's daughter. So the group had no issues with walking right up to Jiriki's home. "What?" Jiriki slams the door open. "You can just knock, you don't have to shout." "What's this about you not going to the Chunin exams?" Katori asks bluntly. Jiriki takes a moment to register her question and then stares daggers at Genzai and Kashiwama for feeling the need to open their big mouths. "It's none of your business, alright?" Jiriki turns around and begins closing the door when Shoto chimes in. "Are you just gonna give up like that?" Shoto steps forward. "Huh?" Jiriki grimaces at him. "Who are you saying is giving up? You have to take part in the Chunin exams so I can beat you in front of the whole shinobi union. So don't you dare just accept your fate." Jiriki shakes his head. "You're delusional, I'm not in the mood for any of this right now." "Jiriki." Kashiwama begins speaking. "Have you talked to them again? Maybe they'll change their minds?" "I said I'm not in the mood. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Unceremoniously, Jiriki closes the door, leaving the five of them stranded outside his home. The moment of silence that follows is broken by a frustrated Katori. "What's his deal, anyway? Here we come worried about our dear friend and classmate, and he just brushes us off. I don't know if he sees us that way." Yakimaru says quietly. Genzai sighs. "I told you can't just walk up to someone's house unannounced. Let's go, we'll talk to him alone when he feels like it." The rest begin walking away while Katori pouts in front of the door. "You better be at the Chunin exams, you hear? We'll be waiting," she shouts while walking backward to join her friends. Unbeknownst to them, two figures were watching the entire meeting from the second-story window, initially drawn by the unnecessary screaming. Tabashi and Sayu Hyuga share a concerned look. Even his classmates are coming to encourage him. Sayu says. "Maybe it's as Lady Hanabi said. We have to trust in him as our family's future." Tabashi says. Sayu walks over to the table where Jiriki's unsigned registration form sits. "Living in mediocrity, huh? It would be cruel to hold him back just because we're afraid. Jiriki, he has more spirit than we did. He can achieve more than we ever did. Then, maybe it's time to start trusting our son and listen to him for a chance." Tabashi takes an inkwell from the table and opens its lid. "Maybe it is." Sayu takes a writing brush from one of the table's side drawers. They both sign their names on the form. End of chapter 83. Chapter 84. Chunin Exams Part 2. Preparation of Growth. Hidden Leaf Village, third training ground. The place where it all started, over 10 years ago. He currently has his back to the three wooden pillars that played such a vital role on his first day as a genin, in particular the middle one that he spent a few times tied to. Instead, he's sitting cross-legged in front of a monument only a few meters away. The polished dark kunai-shaped memorial stone, dedicated to the ones who lost their lives during the Third Great Ninja War. Probably the first reality check he received as a ninja. When Kakashi tried to hammer in them what it really means to go out and fight. He focuses on two names in particular inscribed here. Rin Nahara and Obito Uchiha. His dad's student and his sensei's teammates. One name having been erroneously engraved after his presumed death in the Third War. Once everything calmed down in the aftermath of the Fourth War, there were many debates as to whether Obito's name should remain here and continue to stay besides the honorable shinobi who protected the village with their lives. As the newly appointed Jonin commander, Kakashi made arguments for his old friend, and he was backed up by enough people that Obito remained. Naruto himself continues to have conflicting emotions, but the words he spoke to Kaguya and Zetsu remained true in his mind. The Obito who wanted to be Hokage, who gave his own life to save Kakashi, and the Obito who killed his parents, who plotted to bring the world to its knees are two different people. Driven to extremes by extreme circumstances. That's what he has to and wants to believe, to prevent darkness from entering his heart. To lift the cycle of hatred, as he promised Jiraiya and Nagato. "You sure are early." A voice snaps Naruto away from the memorial stone. He turns around to see none other than his sensei making his way to him. "Kakashi-sensei? Yo." Kakashi gives a mock salute. "What brings you here so early?" He walks over to stand by Naruto's side to look at the memorial stone. "I'm just thinking." Naruto continues to look at the names in the stone. Kakashi rubs his chin. "You do look like you're thinking about more than you should. Anything in particular got you worried?" "It's just. Obito got dealt a lot of bad cards, didn't he?" Kakashi tilts his head in curiosity but continues listening. "Losing someone close to him, being manipulated by Madara. But in the end, he came back to his senses and helped us against Kaguya. Seeing the kind of person he was and the kind of person he became. Makes me wonder about who's behind everything happening now, you know? You're thinking they might be like Obito, someone who has no other choice?" Kakashi asks. "I guess. Nagato, Obito, even Sasuke. They all wanted to do what they thought was right. The ones behind all of this, the Uzumaki clan. They probably think that too. I just don't know if I'm enough of an Uzumaki to stop them. Of course you are. Kakashi brings down his hand on Naruto's head, ruffling his spiky hair. The reason you were chosen to lead the Uzumaki clan was to lead them into the future, not to focus on the past. You're someone who stands his ground for any cause. Against Pain, against Obito, against Sasuke. You help them see past their darkness and glimpse into a brighter future. You don't need to relate to someone to help them or make them see their errors. You just need to have an understanding of what you want for the future. Naruto looks up to him and grins. Thanks for that. Is that why you're already here, to bear the weight of the world on your shoulders? Kakashi asks. Well, that. And I'm just nervous, you know? Naruto chuckles lightly. I signed Team 9 up for the Chunin exams, so I gotta make sure I'm doing everything right to get them ready. Were you ever nervous, Kakashi-sensei? Oh, all the time. Not a day went by that I didn't ask Minato-sensei if I was doing right by you guys. You never struck me as the type. Naruto notes. Kakashi shrugs. Part of being an adult, I suppose. You try to look like you know what you're doing. Yeah, I'm starting to get that. I feel like there's a lot I gotta learn, still. That's also another part of adulthood and of parenthood, you'll figure it out. Also, you don't actually have to call me sensei anymore. We're equals now. But I'm a Jonin and you're Jonin commander, so you're still my boss, aren't you? Naruto chuckles. It's then that the two of them notice three presences approaching the clearing they're in, three familiar and expected presences. Well, looks like it's time for me to go. If you ever have something heavy on your mind, you do have people you can talk to. Kakashi waves as he turns around to leave through the trees. I'll keep it in mind. You don't want to stay around? Nah, this is between Jonin and Genin. An old fart like me has on business here. You're not even that old, sensei. As Kakashi disappears into the trees, Naruto finally stands up and prepares for his students' arrival. They flicker onto the field quickly enough where they stand in the place they usually do when they meet here. In front of the three wooden pillars. Naruto looks them over and smiles. Good morning. Katori pouts and crosses her arms. I thought we were coming together, Dad. I was looking for you. Naruto laughs. Sorry, I figured I'd come a bit earlier. Get a head start. Why do we always come here, anyway? Shoto looks around the training ground. It's one of two places they mainly train, the other being in the Uzumaki clan compound. Did you reserve it or something? Nah, nothing like that, it's just a sentimental place for me. It's where Kakashi-sensei took us on our very first day as Genin. He gave us our first valuable lesson here about what it means to be a ninja. He smiles as he takes a cursory glance at the middle post. I just hope I'm doing the same. That's really nice, sensei. Yakimaru smiles. A place with old traditions. Shoto nods sagely. Yeah, so when do we get to the good stuff? Katori hops in place in excitement. What are we doing today? So impatient. Naruto chuckles. I probably don't need to tell you the exams are gonna be hard. Each village picked out their most promising genin, so you're gonna be facing the best of the best and with a lot of eyes on you. All 12 villages in the Shinobi Union. Apparently it's the biggest Chunin exams ever held. Shoto says. It is, so we got our work cut out for us. In the coming month before the exams, you're gonna train harder than ever. I'm ramping up the intensity to finally help you fix your shortcoming, so you better be prepared. Naruto raises his hands in front of his chest to form a cross with his index and middle fingers. Shadow clones. 9 doppelgangers appear behind him in a large puff of smoke. Shoto, we'll work on upping your taijutsu and earth style. Get even faster and stronger and use them both on conjunction. I understand, Shisho. Shoto clasps his fist in his palm and takes a bow. Yakimaru, you still need to work on the speed and strength of your crystal style. We'll do that until my shadow clones can no longer break through in one hit. Yes, sensei. Yakimaru says. And Katori, you still have a ways to go in mastering your aviary. We'll work on the speed of your conjuring, their attacks, and combinations you can use. You probably have one of the most versatile jutsu out there, we need to make better use of it. Alright, Dad sensei. Katori cheers. Naruto looks over the three of them with a smile on his face. We've been together for a long time. You guys have been driven and motivated since the very beginning, so I know you got what it takes. A month might not sound like a lot, but I know we can do a lot in it. Don't give up and you'll come out on top of these exams. I can't wait. Katori grins. Hidden Leaf Village, 4th training ground. Shino stands quietly and motionless as he always does. Kashiwama, in stark contrast, paces in a circle while Genzai sits on the ground and tries to maintain composure, but his leg's nervous spasming gives it away. Why isn't he coming? Kashiwama bits his lip in frustration. I guess his parents really are set. Genzai lowers his head. That's bullshit. Kashiwama throws his arms. We're Team 5. We can't just split up now, this is the time we need to be together. You think I don't know that? Genzai raises his voice. It's not like there's anything we can do, especially by yelling at each other. Thaw, Kashiwama lowers his arms to his side and sighs. Sorry. What if we go kidnap him? Then we still wouldn't have permission. Shino finally steps forward and speaks for the first time in a solid 10 minutes. Let's begin. Are you prepared? No, we still have to wait. Kashiwama goes to interrupt Shino-sensei, but stops when he actually hears him finish his sentence. Jiriki. Shino turns his head to look to the clearing's entrance. Kashiwama and Genzai snap their heads to see a panting Jiriki approach them, holding a signed registration form for the Chunin exams. I'm prepared. Kashiwama's expression turns from surprise to disbelief to joy in a matter of a couple of seconds before he rushes at his friend and gives him a crushing hug. You're here. Ow, Jiriki winces in pain. Of course I'm here. And rubs his shoulder once Kashiwama actually lets him go. Genzai walks over and pats Jiriki on the shoulder. We were getting worried. What changed their mind? I don't know. Jiriki shrugs. Might have been Katori yelling at our front door, who knows. But they gave me the form after you guys left. So, this means Team 5's going to the exams together, right? Kashiwama turns to Shino-sensei with a hopeful glint in his eyes. Shino nods. That's precisely what it means, which does make today's planned exercise easier as we're all familiar with each other. You've all grown up together, fought and trained together, and thus grown accustomed to one another's styles. For the Chunin exams, we need to ensure that your teamwork is impeccable. Not a single gap in your style. That's because your opponents will show you no less. We're ready, Shino-sensei. Jiriki declares. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Shino smiles lightly. For the following month, we'll focus on your individual skills and hone them to perfection, while also helping you better utilize them as a team. I think we've had pretty good teamwork. Genzai says. We have a lot of good synergy with our jutsu. Thus far. Shino says. There are new elements that will require you to learn new synergies. And that is what today will be for and why we'll move further into the forests. We're not training here? Genzai looks around at the perfectly good training field. Nor for this, no. We're to go away from prying eyes and with much more space that the training ground can provide for us. Kashiwama grins and skips ahead. You guys better get ready. The stuff I trained on is gonna blow your minds. This is gonna be great. He gleefully chuckles. Genzai and Jiriki exchange a confused look but walks forward as well, following their sensei deeper into the woods. Hidden Cloud Village. Samui finds herself, with a tanto in hand, standing in a field that suffered clear signs of combat. Cracks and outright craters in the ground, kunai and shuriken embedded in it or simply scattered across it. Takai and Heiai face off against her, both panting and sweating from exhaustion, while Kitsui hangs back a bit behind them. While those two seem to be engaged in combat, he's kneeling over a fish and trying to heal it. Takai digs her foot into the ground, creating an indent, and leaps forward with enough force to kick up a cloud of dirt. Heiai uses this chance to rush in himself, body crackling with electricity. She comes crashing down, but Samui easily dodges the fist. Takai's punch cracks the ground where her sensei used to be. In the split second, Heiai is on Samui, his body low and his arm open into a hook. With a burst of speed, he impacts right into her stomach. Spear. However, the only thing he senses is the splitting of wood at his biceps. When he comes to a stop, he sees a wooden log split in two and no Samui-sensei. Both Takai and Heiai look around, only to find her behind Kitsui with her tanto by his neck. And a dagger in the fish. Your healer is dead. Your fish is dead. Samui states. Can we at least eat it? Kitsui jokes as Samui takes her blade off him and sheathes it. Heiai brushes the sweat from his brow with the edge of his vest. Isn't it a bit much, Samui-sensei? You're a full-fledged jonin. There's no way we could win. I don't think a Chunin would be able to beat you. Takai adds. Nonsense. Samui walks over to the middle of their battlefield. I'm holding back to a level manageable for a Chunin. Sure doesn't feel like it. Kitsui mutters under his breath, which is still audible for Samui, but she chooses to ignore it. Look, you've all done remarkably well in your missions. You've grown a lot in such a short span of time, but the Chunin exams will be different. The teams selected from other villages will have done just as well as you, if not better. In the month we have until the exams, you need to put in twice the effort and become twice as strong. Yes, sensei. The three of them say in unison. I have to show Katori how much I've grown. Takai says as she clears her bangs from her eyes. You think she'll be at the exams? Heiai asks. She sent me a letter. She'll be there. Heiai chuckles. Groovy. He walks over to a nearby bench where the three of them had left their backpacks. Then we really gotta show off. Hell yeah, we do. Kitsui chimes in from the side. As Heiai reaches for a water bottle to quench his thirst, he's stopped by the sudden presence of a boot pressed against his chest. Samui looks down at him. I don't recall saying we're taking a break, and pushes him back. Not enough to actually hurt him, but enough to send him flying and spinning in the air once or twice. Heiai catches himself and sighs. Oh, man. This training is vital. Protecting your healer is an important part of emergency situations. When they need to focus on reviving a fallen ally, you must focus on protecting them. Samui dashes for Kitsui once again. However, this time a boulder comes flying her way. Takai runs in shortly after it to keep Samui occupied with a flurry of blows, which are easily dodged. Not bad, but you'll need more than that. This already didn't work before and it's not going to work now. Samui feels the hair on the back of her neck rise from the presence of static. Just as before, she dodges out of Heiai's way with no issues. I already said. She stops herself just as she was about to repeat her warning. She notices that this time Heiai wasn't going for a spear attack, but instead keeps running for Takai. He presses a hand against her abdomen, and all of the electricity that was surrounding his body surges through his arm and into her. Lightning style. Overdrive. Once he transfers his jutsu, he continues running back to stand behind her and in front of Kitsui. Takai, think you can solo it? Heiai asks. Takai looks down to her crackling hand and clenches her fist, the sudden flex of her muscles sending a bright spark of electricity. I can. Samui smiles. Well then, show me everything you have. Hidden Rain Village. Conan looks on from one of the rain's towering buildings at the rooftop of a nearby structure. Built as a wide open area for the purposes of lighter training. That's where Team Fio is. As the village leader, she knows she shouldn't be showing favoritism, but as a mother she can't help but want to keep a close eye on them. Currently, Matsu and Samidara are squaring off, with Matsu surrounded by several vaguely humanoid figures made of colorful origami papers that he's controlling. Samidara has her umbrella flung over her shoulder and is spinning it, first clockwise then counterclockwise, which blows at her shiny curly hair. To the side, their teammate Teru is tinkering with the mechanical gauntlet on her right hand, inserting opaque cartridges into their designated slots. Once done, a liquid travels along a tube from the gauntlet to a container on her back, where it begins to bubble. I'm ready. Teru says and looks up to Fio-sensei by her side. Alright. Fio nods and turns to Matsu and Samidara. This exercise will mostly be for you two, so give it your all. Teru, on my signal, release a smokescreen. Teru nods. Understood. Then undercover, Samidara, you're to try and hit Matsu's targets and Matsu, you're to try and dodge her attacks. Splendid. Samidara smiles. Got it. Matsu nods. Begin. Fio gives the command. Teru points her gauntlet at her teammate's direction and releases a gray smoke from one of the compartments she just placed a cartridge in. The smoke goes directly forward and stops when it reaches between the two of them, when it begins to swirl and expand to form a dome of smoke that stays in place. Matsu sends his paper figures into the smoke and commands them from a distance to move about, like an odd version of the cup game. Then, from within the smoke, Samidara raises her umbrella and spins it clockwise, ever faster and faster, until a barrage of senbon is unleashed from the umbrella and flies in all directions. The result is unseen and unknown to anyone until Teru commands her smoke to disperse, and they see that only about a third of Matsu's targets were hit by the senbon barrage, while the rest remain unscathed. Samidara flicks her curly hair behind her shoulder and smiles gently. Excellent. Fio walks over to them. Well, it's a good start, at least. She reaches for her own umbrella on her back and opens it. Remember, the barrage is mainly used for coverage and a distraction. The few senbon you can control should be saved for when you have a better grasp on your target's movement. But it's so bothersome. Samidara complains. Fio sighs. It's something you'll need to learn if you want to advance in the Chunin exams. You'll have a lot of people closely evaluating and watching over. People will be watching? Samidara's indifferent demeanor suddenly turns cheery, her eyes practically sparkling. Well, yes, especially during the final of the exam. It'll take place in an arena and civilians will be allowed to observe. Fio explains. Why didn't you say so? Samitra practically skips back to her spot. I simply must put on a good show if I'm to shine. For my audience. Fio shakes her head. Whatever works, I suppose. Matsu chuckles from his spot before turning to Fio. Is it really okay just for us to train, sensei? Should we be training together with Teru? You will, Fio answers, but we also need to focus on what you're individually lacking. Teru's learned to navigate through gases like this, so you two need to catch up to her. Then while one or both of you are resting, Teru will do her own training. We'll keep rotating like that for a while. Right, Matsu nods. That makes sense. Alright, let's start over. Fio gives the signal. Teru immediately releases another dome of smoke to envelop her two teammates. Wait, I wasn't ready yet. Matsu protests. Too bad. Teru says, her voice giving off the hint of a smile behind her water breather. Hidden Sand Village. One of the perks of living in a land of mostly desert is that you have a lot of free space. Probably more than needed, really, but it does mean one can go all out without having much to worry about. Currently, Team Mitsuri are making the best use of a wide empty space, not far from the hidden sand. Beside them is a cliff that leads into a rocky forest, a place with large stone formations that provide a lot of natural cover, perfect for a different kind of training than what they're doing right now. Mitsuri-sensei is standing to the side, while her three genin are facing each other. Sanjin and Teori on one side, and Taiko on the other. Alright, Mitsuri grabs their attention, needing to raise her voice a bit to be heard clearly, since all three of you are ranged combatants, we'll need to get you ready for as much adversity as we can. Sanjin, Teori, you're easily hindered if something prevents you from sending your puppets and cloth forward. Teori looks down at her feet in slight embarrassment. I'm trying. She mumbles. Taiko, that's where you come. Mitsuri continues. Provide a wind wall for them to overcome. Consider this your training. Preventing others from reaching you. Yes, sensei. Taiko responds. And begin. Mitsuri gives them the signal. Here I come. Taiko reaches for the clasp on her lower back to release her giant folding fan. With a flick, she opens the fan and swings it side to side, increasing the intensity of the wind with each swipe, increasing the amount of sand blown into the curtain of wind. Sanjin and Teori shield their eyes and give each other a confirming nod, both ready to spring into action. Teori unfurls the binding cloth from her back to create a protective dome around them. You ready? She asks. Yeah. Sanjin responds. Come out, Viper. He reaches to the circular backpack strapped to him with a leather harness and sends in 5 chakra strings, one from each finger. From his backpack, he pulls out several rectangular blocks of wood that snap into place, each of them decorated with triangular carvings to resemble a snake's scales. A giant puppet viper curls around him, comprised of a total of 10 separate compartments, each of which he commands with a chakra string from one finger. All the while, Taiko has been keeping up a constant gust of wind to present them with their challenge. Teori commands her cloth to bend in a drill shape to pierce through Taiko's wind, but the shape proves unstable and breaks apart. Sanjin tries to send his viper through, but it's quickly blown away as well. He loses focus on some of his chakra strings, forcing him to have to quickly reattach new ones before he loses control over his puppet. The two keep up their attempts to break through Taiko's wind, with Teori using her cloth mainly as a shield, even repositioning it to better allow the strong winds to pass by it, but seeing as the wind is under Taiko's control, she can change its direction at a whim and ruins their plans. Sanjin even tries to curl his viper puppet into a circular shield and get through that way, but he doesn't quite manage to reach either. This exercise goes on for well over an hour, with Teori and Sanjin making various degrees of progress before Taiko readjusts her jutsu to halt them in their tracks. The two put up a good struggle, but in the end, it was just that. A struggle. All three of them collapse on the ground, their chakra entirely drained from the exercise. We didn't even get close. Teori says through her panting. No, you definitely got close a few times. Taiko says. You had me worried there. Ah, you're just saying that. Teori dismisses the correction. Sanjin straightens himself up to sit rather than lie. I think we made good progress. Mitsuri approaches their group. You definitely did. There's still room to improve, but we have a month to iron that out. You'll get it in no time. Teori, your range with your binding cloth is still relatively short, and you're still using a lot of chakra to maintain it. Teori nods. If I send it too far away it becomes too weak. And we'll work on that in the coming month. Sanjin, your puppetry is good, but you still have trouble keeping concentration and reducing how many chakra threads you actually need. Sanjin looks down at Viper lying at his feet. I think I made it too complicated. I can't seem to do it without using all of my fingers. He scratches his chin. Maybe I should try another puppet. Don't fret too much over it. Mitsuri leans down and pats him on the head. Viper's an awesome puppet, you'll definitely figure it out. Sanjin smiles. Thanks, and Taiko, your control was excellent. Your chakra usage and your manipulation really kept them on their toes. Thank you, sensei. But naturally, actual enemies aren't going to just stand in one place while you blast them away. They'll try to maneuver more, so we have to train more for that, too. So that's on the schedule for tomorrow? Teori asks. Tomorrow? Mitsuri cocks her head. No, in an hour after you've rested. An hour? Teori and Taiko say in unison. But we can barely move. Taiko argues. Exactly. Mitsuri nods. You need to train past your limits if you're ever going to surpass them. Your rivals aren't going to care if you're tired. You need to push through to reach your goals, no matter what. Understood? Ugh. Teori groans. Understood? Mitsuri repeats in a stricter tone. Yes, sensei. They respond with a sigh. Land of water. A man runs through the dark and shadowy woods. Alone. Terrified. Covered in blood, not all of it his own. He looks behind to see if there's any trace of who or what he's running from. The only thing he spots is a crackle of electricity somewhere in the distance. Shit, 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 shit. He zigzags between the trees, leaps over branches, jumps through the thick shrubbery, all in a vain attempt to escape. That's not going to be enough. A voice echoes from the ether. He ducks behind a tree and presses his back against it, trying to zone in on the voice's origin. He stands completely still, slows down his breathing best he can after all that running, and just waits for any sign that it's safe to go. Just as he moves to turn his head around the tree and investigate, a sharp pain pierces his chest. He looks down to see 3 shuriken embedded in his torso, metal coursing with electricity. Before his mind can even run through his choices, a figure flickers right in front of him. He only has a second to register her form, a young girl with short slicked back hair and piercing dark blue eyes. She looks up at him and grins, to reveal her sharp teeth. I told you. In a flash, she runs a sword through his chest and sends electricity running through. The man screams in pain for only a moment before his body falls limp. 6 down. Bunten Kurisuki pulls out her sword from his body and slashes it to the side to get rid of the blood. As she does, she hears the explosions from her right and the wailing cries from her left. Sounds like Ichirota and Hibayachigo and doing fine, too. She leans down to rifle through the pockets of the man she'd just killed and clicks her tongue when she finds nothing of worth. Why were you even running when you're just a waste of time? She sighs and walks back to their designated meeting spot. Bunten treks through the forest, back to her starting point. A small clearing, free of the confines of the surrounding tree, so the moonlight can freely illuminate when the clouds aren't in the way. Her eyes immediately focus on her sensei, Saizo Kairan, sitting on a large rock with the blast word Shibuki lying at his feet. She looks around to see the other team that had come with them on their mission. The Jonin leader with a large turtle shell strapped to his back, an overly large girl with red skin and horn that makes Bunten question if they really are the same age, a smaller girl with a young panther by her side, and a pale and gloomy boy who seems to always be staring off into the distance and never mentally present. Shinobi from the hidden mountain village. Bunten narrows her eyes and looks over the 3 mountain genin. The 2 teams left at the same time, and yet all 3 of them are already back and look like they've barely broken a sweat. They're good. At this time, both Ichirota and Hibayachigo appear by her side. Ichirota fixes his hair, ruffled from the explosions, and Hibayachigo hides her steel wires inside her overly large sleeves that cover her entire hands. Did they have anything of worth? Saizo asks. All 3 of them shake their heads. Nothing? Saizo looks back to Mizushi Asui. Looks like these guys were just low-level trash. So it would appear. Mizushi shrugs. We still made a significant dent in these bandits, so I wouldn't call this operation a complete failure. Why did we even waste time with common thugs? Doji Ibaraki crosses her arms and leans against a tree. Her Oni-like appearance, completely with 2 horns and dark red skin, make almost everything she says look and sound like a threat, even if she doesn't mean it. We still have our duties to maintain, Doji, you're aware of this. Mizushi explains. This is the final step, after all, we mustn't waver. Everything is ready on our end. Saizo interjects. The bloody mist is ready to act. Mizushi smiles. I look forward to these Chunin exams. They promise to be quite entertaining. I just hope Naruto Uzumaki's team will be there. Bunten says. Out of everyone, they're the ones I need to crush into dust. Doji cocks her head. Naruto Uzumaki's? Why? She asks. I have my reasons. Bunten answers. What's it to you? It's more to you. Naruto Uzumaki's team is mine to deal with. Don't even think of getting in my way. What did you say? Bunten stomps one step closer and places her hand on her sword's hilts. I've been waiting for this moment for 10 years. If you think some random freak show's gonna tell me what to do, then. Enough, Saizo calls out. We're not enemies in this. Whatever grievances you each have won't be up to you to settle. It'll be the luck of the draw. After that, you can do as you please. Yes, sensei. Bunten says through gritted teeth. Then we'll take our leave. Mizushi says. We still have leads back in the land of hot water. If any of these thugs swim into the land of water, we'll inform you. Thank you kindly. Let's go, you three. Mizushi flickers away. Hayao Nekomata follows shortly after with her companion Panther. Onryo isn't far behind. Doji lingers for a moment longer to pointedly stare a hole into Bunten before leaving, as well. With the mountain shinobi gone, Bunten clicks her tongue. She better hope we don't have to fight in the exams. She does look strong, be careful with her. Ichirota advises caution. That pale guy looked off, too. All somber and quiet. He shivers. Hibachigo giggles. I think he's kinda cute. Of course you do. Ichirota sighs. Do try not to jeopardize the mission. All three of you are training to wield the 7 swords of the mist. You're an important part of our future. How you act and what you do will be important. Be mindful. Yes, sensei. They say unison. 1 month later. Land of Fire coastline. All 4 of the Hidden Leafs teams stand at the dock of a port town, waiting for their ship to prepare to depart. For Team Naruto, it's an almost nostalgic feeling, reminiscing of when they had to travel to the land of water the last time, the final part of their journey across the lands. Katori in particular is practically jumping with excitement at the prospect of getting on a ship again. Kashiwama steps forward to stand next to her and takes a deep breath. This is awesome. I've never been on the ocean before. Really? Katori says in surprise. Not even for a mission? Nope. He shakes his head. Never had a reason to. Farthest we traveled was to the Hidden Moon Village, and we just ran there. Oh, it's super fun. You love it. Katori grins. I prefer land. Shoto grumbles. All that swerving and swaying. Jiriki scoffs. And how do you plan on proving yourself if a little water gets to you? Oh, shut it. Yakimaru smiles and looks on at the horizon. I do look forward to seeing the land of water again. It was nice. Last to the dock's a rotten egg. Katori immediately makes a dash for it, not even waiting for an acknowledgement from the others. Hey, not fair. Kashiwama's not far behind. Genzai sighs. They're always so energetic. It's never boring, at least. Yakimaru chuckles and follows them. Genzai shrugs and runs along, as well. You're not wrong. Shoto and Jiriki share a brief glance, both of them determined to win the race, but neither of them admitting they're racing. They start with a normal walking speed, each picking up speed to get ahead of the other. Then they start power walking, which turns into a jog, until they're eventually running at full speed. In the distance, Naruto and Shino are looking over the docks at their students' obvious antics. It's good they're in high spirits. Naruto laughs. They need some time to relax. Shino nods. The Chunin exams are right around the corner. I'm sure they're trying not to show how nervous they are. Ha, I wasn't nervous in the least. No, you were not. Shino chuckles lightly. They remain silent for a brief moment, taking in the soft breeze as their minds go over the next step of their lives, an important moment for them as both shinobi and teachers. It doesn't feel like a lot of time's passed, you know? I remember Kiba's punches like we just fought yesterday. Still remember how the arena smelled. I'm certain he remembers how you smelled as well. Shino says. Naruto bursts into a fit of laughter. Oh, man, I'm sure he does. He wipes away an imaginary tear. Naruto, Shino. They turn around to see their fellow Jonin sensei Koka Janajikage calling out to them from further into the docks. We're all clear to go. We should get ready. Well, then, shall we? Shino says. Let's go. Naruto stretches his arms and the two go to their colleagues. End of chapter 84. Chapter 85. Chunin Exams Part 3. Meetings and Reunions. Before the ship can even fully hit the docks and come to a stop, Katori and Kashiwama jump off the site and safely land, much to the confusion of some dock workers. One sailor peeks over the side of the ships and yells out, "Hey! That's dangerous." But it's already too late, the deed is done. Naruto gives the man a sympathetic smile. "Sorry about that." Katori and Kashiwama take in a deep breath and take in the heavy air of the hidden mist village. To Katori, it's a sensation that's still unusual to her, but she has fond memories of it, even if she was here only for 3 months. To Kashiwama, this is an entirely new feeling. He's been to a coast before and has breathed the very distinct air that comes from being close to the seas, but this is something else altogether. He can almost feel the air plugging his nose despite how little sense that makes. So, this is the hidden mist? Kashiwama looks around. In some ways it's vastly different from home, but in others it's fairly similar. Even though they're on the outskirts, he can still see further in through the ever-present mist that's given the village its name. Series of large cylindrical buildings, many of them decorated with plant life on the rooftops, that makes him wonder if that's purely for decoration or if it serves some kind of purpose. Winding aqueducts run throughout the entirety of the village, intersecting with walkways that allow the residents to reach higher or lower levels of the village. Sure is. Katori grins. You love it here, it's a lot of fun to explore. It's a lot greener than I thought. Kashiwama says. Yeah, I was expecting less trees and more water, too. We get that a lot. A third voice addresses them. They turn around to find the source and are met by a middle-aged mist shinobi approaching them. A man of slim build with gaunt and sunken-in features and long hair flowing down his back. Hello Katori. The shinobi smiles at them. You've grown quite a bit. Katori squints her eyes and takes a moment to take in his features when the realization hits her. Ganryu. She runs over to him and raises her hand up high. Ganryu chuckles and returns the high five. Already trying for Chunin, huh? I plan to do more than just try. She grins. That's the spirit. Kashiwama walks toward them, looking between the two. You know the geezer, Katori? Katori spins around and dramatically motions to the older shinobi. This is Ganryu. He was like our guide when we stayed here. And I believe your Kashiwama sent you, correct? Ganryu smiles. You know about me? Kashiwama cocks his head. Ha, I guess I'm already becoming super famous. He pumps his fist. Ganryu chuckles. I read the files. When I saw Naruto's team was in the Chunin exams, I volunteered to act as liaison for the Hidden Leaf. I had to familiarize myself with the teams. Oh, you missed us? Katori grins. Perhaps a little. At this point, the ship they arrived in has docked, and the 4 teams from the Hidden Leaf are disembarking. Naruto hops off as well, with Yakimaru and Shoto, and immediately spots Ganryu, giving him a big wave. Team Shino are right behind them, with Yuriki in particular taking extremely slow steps while clutching the railing for dear life. He takes deep, strained breaths as he walks, one hand always firmly on the railing. Never again. Yuriki feels a ball forming at the base of his throat. He leans over in case of needing to expel excess bodily fluids, but manages to hold it in. Shoto looks back with a smirk. What's the matter, a little water got to you? Shut it. We'll have to get on the boat again on the way back. Shino says nonchalantly. Yuriki feels another ball forming in his throat at the mere thought. Ganryu, hey. Naruto walks up to the old friend. What brings you here? I'm meeting you, actually. Ganryu gives a nod in greeting to the other 3 teams from the Hidden Leaf. I'm to help you alter your accommodations and aid you in any way you need during your stay. Sounds like we'll be in your care again, then. Naruto grins. Good to have you, Ganryu. Shino nods to the man as he approaches. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ganryu. Tessen and Kokage's teams approach as well, now all teams lined up and ready. After a moment of hesitation, Katori looks up at their guide. Say, Ganryu, who else is here? For the Chunin exams, I mean. Ganryu takes a moment to think it over. I believe the Hidden Frost and Hidden Cloud arrived last night. The Hidden Moon docked about 2 hours ago. Why do you ask? Katori's eyes light up at the mention of the cloud. Do you know which teams are from the cloud? He shakes his head. I don't know, but I could check if you'd like. Why do you ask? Oh, I got friends from there. Don't actually know if they're in the exams, though. I'll see what I can do. Ganryu smiles. Naruto wordlessly hugs Katori and pulls her to his side as they continue their walk. With all of their baggage unpacked or semi-unpacked and the rest left for later, Katori climbs up on the balcony and takes in a deep breath as she enjoys the view. It's the same view as last time, mostly hidden by fog, but it's still nice to be back here. For the purpose of the Chunin exams, the teams are actually separated. There are a total of 4 buildings designated to house the guests, and each village is to have 1 team in each building. Team Naruto are in Building 1, Team Shino are in Building 3. A way to promote different teams to interact in the common areas and either get them closer or get them more motivated on seeing their rivals. Whichever helps deepen the bonds. Since the hidden cloud are already here, Katori can't help but wonder if Takai and the rest were chosen for the Chunin exams or if they even signed up for it. She meant to write, several times in fact, but it always ended up postponed. She can investigate that a bit later. For now, let's go explore. She calls out to Yakimaru and Shoto who are relaxing inside their apartment's common area. Already? Shoto groans. My feet are still getting used to solid ground. Haven't we also already explored most of the mist, anyway? Yakimaru chuckles. Yeah, but think about how much could have changed. Katori spins around to look inside the room and grins. Realistically, not a lot. Yakimaru scratches his chin in thought. Cities don't really change all that much, especially this quick. Naruto walks into the common area, carrying yet another bundle of clothes they'll need for the duration of their stay. Some exploring might do you all good. Take in the atmosphere. Exactly. Katori cheers. Dad gets it. Shoto sighs and shares a defeated look with Yakimaru, who can only shrug in response. All right, let's go. Hooray. With no warning, as soon as Yakimaru and Shoto get up from their seats, Katori jumps off the balcony with a wide grin on her face. In utter shock they both run to the balcony and peer down. Katori. What? They're met by their teammate's curious look as she stands on the wall, held firmly in place by her chakra. Come, hurry. She turns around and begins running down the building. Yakimaru and Shoto sigh in exasperation. They already feel exhausted and they haven't even gone out yet. They hop off the balcony as well and run down the wall after her. How about we go to that tea place? She offers. They had really good sweets. That actually sounds nice. Yakimaru says. I remember there was a yakisoba place, too. It was really delicious. So this is a food run? Shoto chuckles. You were just hungry. Basically, yeah. Katori chuckles. As the three run down, it doesn't actually take them very long to near the bottom. The buildings here are tall, but shinobi are fast enough that it's no effort to run their entire length. Throughout the run, Katori is focused on the mist and going around it just like they did years before. That's why she doesn't fully spot the person on the first floor balcony. A darker figure that goes by in a blur that she sees only from her peripheral vision. Katori? The figure says in surprise. As Katori hits the ground, she looks up to the first floor balcony. There, she sees a young girl, not much younger than her despite being much taller than average. Standing upright as opposed to the slightly hunched over form she remembers. Hair now parting to show her eyes where they used to be hidden before. Darker skin, auburn curly hair running down to her cheeks. Hidden cloud village protector on her forehead. Katori looks at her with a look of disbelief. Takai? Takai smiles from ear to ear, something she rarely did when she was younger, when Katori spent time with her. She jumps down and runs to her old friend. Katori, Takai. Katori runs up to her and the two embrace in a tight hug, Takai still being a towering figure. I'm so glad you're here. Me, too. In excitement, Takai lifts Katori slightly off her feet. It's been so long. It has. Katori sniffs in an attempt to fight back. The two break away and take a moment to look over each other. Arguably each other's first friends, Katori helped Takai out of her shell, and Takai helped Katori get accustomed to the ninja world that was so alien to her. Both of them now stand as true shinobi, no longer the young academy kids they used to be. Yakimaru and Shoto break the moment the girls have when they land on the ground not far from them. Someone you know? Shoto asks. Guys. Katori whips around and motions to Takai, putting her on display. This is Takai. From the hidden cloud? Yakimaru recognizes the name from the stories Katori's told them. It's nice to meet you. Takai gives a light bow. Shoto returns the gesture in kind. I'm Shoto Teshin. Yakimaru Kagatsu. I've heard a lot about you both from Katori's letters. Takai smiles. It's so good to finally meet you. You, too. Yakimaru answers. Katori's talked a lot about you, too. Yo, Takai, where'd you go? A voice comes from the first floor. They all look up to see two boys peek over to see where their teammate went. One darker-skinned boy with dreaded silver hair and one lighter-skinned with short blonde hair. Katori's already ever-present smile only widens when she recognizes them both. Hey I. Kitsui. Hey. She waves to them. Hey I leans on the balcony railing and smiles. So you're here, too, huh? I knew you'd be. Kitsui hops over the railing and lands firmly on his feet on the ground below. He strides forward with his hands on his hips. There isn't a better place for us to meet than the Chunin exams. Katori giggles. I even missed you, Kitsui. What's that supposed to mean? Kitsui raises a bow. Oh, nothing? Hi, I'm Yakimaru, Kotori's teammate. He introduces himself once more. As does Shoto. Shoto Teshin. Kitsui puffs out his chest. Kitsui Yutsuki of the famed Yutsuki clan, I'm sure you've heard of it. Not really. Yoku and Shoto say in unison. Kitsui hangs his head in dejection. Hey. He introduces himself briefly with a mock salute. So you're Shoto, huh? Shoto looks with a quizzical look. I am, yes. Why? No reason. Hey smirks. Just heard you're good at taijutsu. Curious to see it, is all. Maybe you will. Oh, I know. Kotori hops in place while holding Takai's hand. Let's go eat together. We have so much catching up to do. That sounds good. Takai adjures. I'll let Samui-sensei know. Hey says and turns around to go back inside their apartment. Samui's your sensei? Kotori says in surprise. Yep, she's a really good teacher. Takai says, real strict, though. Kitsui mumbles. After a moment, Hey walks back out and also hops over the balcony to join them on the ground. So where are we heading? Over the course of a couple of hours, Team Naruto and Team Samui go through several stalls while sharing their mission stories and adventures. Team Naruto share all the menial jobs they had to take on at first, to the more interesting ones, such as clearing some invasive giant snakes, to the incident at the Hidden Dream Village, information of which by now has spread throughout the nations. Team Samui, in turn, share their own stories. They weren't a part of anything grand like a plot to unleash a horrible monster to be used for world domination, but hey, not everyone is. Kitsui is by far the most animated in the retellings, with Takai not entirely dropping her more reserved personality and Hei being laid back and honestly more enjoying listening to the conversations rather than being part of them. And then, Kitsui places his foot on the stool he stood up from a while ago. I put an entire group of giant mountain goats under a genjutsu to stop them in their tracks. Wasn't it just like two? Hei chimes. And they quickly broke out of it. Takai adds with a hint of confusion as to Kitsui's version of events. Kitsui's face turns a light shade of red, but he pushes through. Be that as it may. It worked, didn't it? So it's fine. Goats, genjutsu. All there. But Takai. He motions to her. She actually held them back. Beat the leader in a show of strength. Whoa, Kotori gasps. That's super cool. Right? Kitsui grins. She's gotten real strong, you know. Can break a wall down, easy. A server comes and places their orders in front of them while looking over Takai. There better be none of them here, you hear? Oh, no, I would never. Takai is quick to defend herself. She's only just gotten here, she doesn't want a bad reputation already. Aren't goats supposed to be calm and peaceful? Shoto asks. Why were these even aggro? Hei shrugs. They're also territorial. Didn't want us on their mountain. And they were giant goats. Kitsui clarifies. Totally different. Super dangerous. Wasn't your sensei with you during it, though? Yakimaru asks. Didn't she help? She was testing us how we'd do on our own. Hei answers. Yeah, she just sat back while we did all the heavy lifting. Kitsui says. Dad kinda did that too, like with the giant snakes. Kotori says. Aw, man, you guys fought snakes? Kitsui pouts. That's way cooler than some dumb goats. Shoto raises a brow. I thought they were super dangerous giant goats. They're still just goats. Kitsui mumbles and stops trying to play up the giant goats. The six of them continue to share stories of their missions and the things they've seen and done. They share in laughter and reminiscing until Kotori spots something from the corner of her eye. Something purple hits her peripheral that looks oddly familiar, although it's difficult to tell from inside the restaurant. She gets up from their table and presses her face against the glass to get a better look. Kotori? Shoto raises a brow. Is something the matter? Takai asks. Yeah. Kotori answers, her breath leaving a cloudy imprint on the window. I'm just. She gasps. It is, she exclaims as she recognizes the figure outside and makes a mad dash for the door, not even bothering to explain. The five of them share a perplexed look and take a moment of awkward and silent questioning before they walk out after Kotori. After getting the bill straightened out, of course. Outside, Kotori practically flies out the front door and looks around for what she saw before. Or rather, who? She takes note of the head of purple hair and all too familiar robes that she's seen in one village in particular. The heavier coats of the Hidden Rain village. Matsu, she calls out to the person she's 95% certain is who she thinks it is. He turns around and, sure enough, Matsu easily finds the person who called out to him, frantically waving and running towards him. You're here, too. Kotori skips right in front of him and gives him a tight hug. Katori. Matsu smiles and awkwardly returns the hug, which is more like a light pat on her back. It's so good to see you. You're here for the Chunin exams, too? Katori pulls away and grins. Sure am. I was hoping you'd be here, too. Oh, a fateful reunion, then. Sumidora chimes in from the side, slowly swaying from side to wise as she twirls her open umbrella. Such a captivating moment. Two youths who find each other after a long separation. Hello? Katori looks at her in confusion. Oh, Katori, meet my teammates. Matsu motions to the much more vibrant girl, this is Sumidora, and then to the more reserved girl standing farther back, and that's Teru. A pleasure. Sumidora says. Teru simply nods in acknowledgement. It's real nice to meet you. Katori grins. And this is Katori. Her dad saved my mom. Matsu smiles. Ah. Sumidora exclaims. A bond that transcends the generations. The parents' friendship unites the children with an inseparable bond. Truly a love story for the ages. Love, Katori stammers out. That's not at all what's happening. Matsu turns beet red. Yeah, don't wish this, Sumidora. So we're at the part of the story where they still discover their feelings. Sumidora wistfully places a hand on her cheeks. I simply can't wait to see how this unfolds. Boy, are you even listening? Matsu yells out. You know she's not. Teru says. Oh, hey, it's Matsu. Yakimaru's voice thankfully breaks the weird atmosphere set by Sumidora. The rest of Team Naruto and Team Samui exit the restaurant and approach. Why didn't you just say you saw Matsu? Shoto sighs. Running out like that. Sorry. Katori averts her gaze. Matsu also awkwardly remains silent. Shoto raises a brow at their bashfulness. For Matsu it's not that odd, but Katori usually isn't. What's up with you two? Nothing, they both say in unison. Anyway, it's good to see you too. Matsu greets Yakimaru and Shoto before he looks at the three unfamiliar figures behind them. And, I don't think we've met. I'm Matsu and these are my teammates. Teru and Sumidora. Kitsui steps forward and puffs out his chest. Kitsui Yutsuki, of the Hidden Cloud's famed Yutsuki clan. Matsu gives an apologetic and slightly embarrassed look. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I've heard of them. Kitsui hangs his head in defeat. I'm Heiai. Takai, it's nice to meet you. You're from the Hidden Rain, right? Katori wrote about you and what happened in your village. Ah, yeah, all that. Kind of feels like a lifetime ago already. Katori continues to bear an ecstatic grin on her face. Yeah, so much has changed since I met all of you. Matsu, you guys should come with us and we can catch up on everything. We're taking a tour of the mist. And then maybe we can train together, like we used to. Shoto crosses his arms and intervenes. I don't think that's a good idea. Huh, why not? Katori cocks her head as she looks at him. Teru speaks up as she tinkers with her metal gauntlet. We might soon fight against each other. Exactly. Shoto nods. For this exam, we're rivals. If we want to progress, we can't show off what we can do. Katori frowns. Oh. I guess you're right. As pragmatic as always, Shoto. Matsu laughs. But you and Teru do have a point. We're all here because we want to win this. We were all personally selected, after all. Heiai says. We need to put our best foot forward. Kitsui slams his fist in his open palm and grins. All the better, then. Sumidora laughs. To meet one another in the heat of combat, with all the passion that entails. A story for the ages, indeed. She only now retracts her umbrella and places its tip on the ground as she uses it for support. I can't wait. Alright? Shoto looks at her with confusion, as does everyone else. Be that as it may, Yakimaru speaks up, we can still hang out, right? Of course we can. Matsu answers. We're actually going to meet up Fio-sensei now, but we can talk later. Which building are you guys in? We're all in building 1. Katori answers. We're in 4. Matsu says. So maybe we can meet somewhere outside. Deal. Alright, until then. Matsu waves to them as they turn around to continue their walk. With that, Team Fio heads further into the village, waving their goodbyes to Team Naruto and Team Samui. I think we should be going, too. Heiai looks up to the increasingly darkening sky. Check with Samui-sensei. We'll talk later, yeah? Katori goes to give Takai a big hug. Takai readily returns it. Definitely. The 4 buildings designated to house the foreign teams are positioned in somewhat of a semicircle with a small park in between them. With the day over, filled with excitement of seeing each other again, Katori and Takai are sitting in the surprisingly well-lit park, given how dark and foggy the evening is. Whatever these lamp posts are powered by, it's strong. Katori had taken a moment to herself to gather her thoughts and to do some reading. Doing more research on birds that she's been able to summon, as having a deeper understanding on how they live and how they operate is directly tied to how strong her jutsu is. During her reading, Takai found her while on her own stroll, and the two sat together. After these exams are over, you're telling me everything. Katori says. Takai chuckles. Definitely. I have a lot to show you during these exams. I kinda hope we don't end up fighting each other, though. After a moment, Takai answers. I do. She turns to look Katori directly in the eyes. If there's anyone here I want to fight against, it's you, Katori. To show you who I am as a ninja. Katori looks back, surprised at the answer, but realizing the words to be true. Takai. So you better come at me with everything you have, too. Katori smiles. You got it. Boy. A voice interrupts the girls. Katori. She turns around to see four figures approaching under the lamplight. Slightly blurry from a distance, they eventually come into shape as Team Shino, alongside a girl she'd never seen before. As they get closer, she sees the headband on her head as belonging to the Hidden Moon village. Hey! Katori greets them. Where have you been this late? Checking out the village. Kashiwama answers. There's so much to see. And, he motions to the girl with them, we found Hifumi. Hello? Hifumi shyly waves to Katori and Takai. I'm Hifumi Tsujibashi from the Hidden Moon. Ah, so you're Hifumi. Katori recognizes the name from Kashiwama's stories of everything that happened. I'm Katori Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. I'm Takai from the Hidden Cloud. Oh, so you're Katori's friend from the cloud. Kashiwama grins. I'm Kashiwama Senju, Katori's future husband. He says with absolute certainty. You are? Takai gasps in surprise. Oh dear. Hifumi hides her mouth with her hand and looks between the two. I had no idea. Genzai and Jiriki can only face palm. After taking a moment to register and for the flushness of her cheeks to settle, Katori jumps up from her seat in protest. No, he's not. Don't go deciding things on your own, Kashiwama. Huh, how come? Kashiwama genuinely asks. Genzai shakes his head. Don't pay him too much attention. Takai looks at them all in confusion. So? He's not? No, Katori reiterates. Honestly, you're so. She looks at Kashiwama and mumbles. As we were saying. Genzai sighs. I'm Genzai Saratobi, this guy's teammate. He points to Kashiwama. Jiriki Hyuga. He nods in greeting. Wow. Takai looks between the three of them. You're all from famous clans. You must be strong. Naturally. Kashiwama puffs out his chest. That's why Katori and I are meant to be. Katori hides her face in embarrassment. A name means nothing if you don't put in any work. Jiriki says. Our strength is because of the effort we've put into attaining. If you're here, I'd hope you're the same and you won't be wasting our time. Oh, Takai is caught a bit off guard by Jiriki's response. Don't mind him. Katori waves her hand dismissively. He's just like that. Kashiwama lightly smacks him on the shoulder. Yeah, man, there's no need to be rude to a new friend. Jiriki shrugs. It is how it is. I'm going to bed, I have to be rested for tomorrow's training. As should you too, the exams are soon. He turns around and makes his way toward their building. Oh, good night. Hifumi waves to him, receiving a wave in return. Genzai raises a brow and looks at Kashiwama. Is he more intense than usual? Kashiwama shrugs. Sounds the same to me. Either way, he's right, we gotta get ready for whatever Shino-sensei's got planned for us. You're already hard at work, huh? Katori says. Yeah, are you gonna train with Naruto-sensei? Kashiwama asks. Katori taps her chin as she thinks for a moment. I don't know. He hasn't said anything. I'd take the time to if I were you. Genzai says. We got a long road ahead of us. Let's go, Kashiwama. Yeah. Good night, you three. It was nice to meet you, Takai. Good night. Katori, Takai, and Hifumi waves them off as they follow the same path as Jiriki back to their building. Hifumi lingers for a moment by the bench, a slightly awkward moment as she's left with two girls she'd just met. She does eventually break the silence by addressing Takai while keeping her eyes in the direction of Team Shino's path. I did see them fight, and they were amazing. I don't know if it's because they're from clans or what, but they're something else. Yeah, the boys sure are. Katori says. So you were with them at the Hidden Moon? Hifumi nods. They were assigned to my uncle and we did a few missions together. Well, don't let that get to you. We all got our own thing that makes us strong. Kashiwama and the rest have their own strengths, and I'm sure you do, too. Koter grins. We just need to show where we shine, Takai adds, and not focus on where we don't. Wow, that was really deep. Katori genuinely says. Was it? Takai rubs the back of her head, slightly embarrassed. Hifumi chuckles. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about being a downer. I hope we can meet each other again, before or during the exams. Same. Katori and I made a promise not to hold back against each other. Then I promise not to, either. Good night. Hifumi waves them off and goes to her own building. Good night. We should probably go, too. With the evening coming to a close, Katori and Takai hop off the bench and go back to Building 1 to get ready for the following day and everything it'll bring. Next day. Hidden Mist Village docks. Katori had gotten up nice and early from a combination of restlessness over the exams and just that odd feeling when you're not in your own home, so sleep feels awkward. New bed, new environment. Apparently Yakamaru and Shoto felt the exact same since they woke up not long after her, and the three decided to head out into the village since they had nothing better to do for now. Katori's main desired destination was the docks. High atop a tower to look at the docks and just have a nice picnic of sorts while they carefully watch the ships that to and fro. Later in the morning, closer to noon, Naruto eventually approaches them as they sit and talk amongst themselves. So this is where you've been. Hey, Dad. Katori greets him. What are you doing all the way up here? Naruto asks. Shoto points to the docks. We wanted to keep a lookout. Naruto raises a brow. For? Sanjin and Teori. Katori answers with a hint of excitement and anticipation. The Hidden Sands teams haven't arrived yet, and we're hoping Sanjin and Teori are coming. Yakamaru clarifies. Waiting for your friends, huh? Naruto chuckles. But we don't know if they're coming, do we? Or when? They are. Katori says immediately once Naruto voices uncertainty. They definitely are. Well, I guess I'll leave you to it. Don't stay for too long. Master, Shoto chimes in before Naruto leaves. You know, you can call me sensei. Are we going to train? Shoto asks his question. Do you want to? Naruto, I feel like we should, Shoto says with uncertainty, seeing that Naruto himself isn't pushing them to. Team 5 are. Aha. Naruto nods. So why do you want to train? Because you feel unprepared or you still have some jutsu you're trying to figure out to pass the time? He asks before also adding with a knowing smile, or is it because Jiriki is doing it? Shoto looks down. I don't know. It just feels like we should be. Do you two think we should train, too? Naruto looks to Katori and Yakamaru. Yakamaru thinks for a moment. Maybe we should? It's not like we'll get stronger in a single day. Katori says as she continues to look on at the docks. You're right. Naruto sits down with them. For the past month, you trained your butts off and you got stronger than ever. I couldn't be more proud of you. As far as I'm concerned, you're more than ready. But if you want to train some more, that's your choice. The kids listen intently as Naruto clearly prepares himself for a speech. He sits beside them and look at the horizon. You're at the Chunin exams and if you do well, you're gonna be promoted to Chunin. You won't be my students anymore. You'll be your own ninja and will have more responsibility. You'll have to make your own choices. So, start now. Look inside and decide what's the best course of action for you. Use this time to gather your energy or keep at it. You're right, Shoto says. We have to make our own choices. Are we really gonna stop being a team? Yakamaru asks apprehensively. I don't want that. Naruto pats him on the head. We can still be a team. It just won't be as teacher and students. Katori turns around and grins. You'd be too sad without us around. Naruto chuckles. Yeah, I would be. So, whatever you want to do before the exams, it's entirely up to you. If you do want to train, I'll leave a shadow clone back at the apartment just in case. Okay? Yes, master. Shoto bows. Thank you for your wisdom. Seriously, just call me sensei. Naruto sighs. Alright, I'll be off, then. He gives them a mock salute before leaving. Rather than getting up and just walking away as one would normally expect, Naruto disappears into thin air with a puff of smoke. Huh, a shadow clone. That really is useful. Katori says. It doesn't take that long for them to see some hurried movement, the welcome committee clearly in a rush. This next ship is one of the Shinobi Union members. As a ship approaches, the three of them try to get a closer look of what flag they carry, and once it gets closer, they recognize the Hidden Dreams Village's symbols. Katori sends out her sparrows to get a better view of who precisely is arriving. As with all villages, 4 teams comprised of 1 sensei and 3 students make their way off the ship and are greeted by the people of the mist. One person in particular instantly stands out to Katori who has a better view through her sparrows. A young boy dressed in particular armor-covered robes with a crescent decoration on his helmet. Taisa Amajiri, it's Taisa. Katori informs the others. That was the Amajiri kid you fought, right? Shoto asks. He's the same age as us. Yakimaru raises a brow at Shoto's use of the word kid. Yeah, let's go say hi. Katori immediately hops off and makes her way closer to the docks. Shoto sighs. Guess we're going to say hi. He and Yakimaru follow suit. It doesn't take long for them to get there, but moving past the crowd is another thing. This is essentially meeting a foreign delegation. After all, people don't take kindly to someone trying to push their way through. Still, they manage to inch their way past one person at a time until they're near the front. As soon as they make it to the front, Taisa spots them among the sea of people present. You guys? Taisa raises a brow. Hey. Katori waves. Been a while. Not that long. Taisa chuckles. So, you're in the exams, too? We sure are. We got here yesterday. Shoto looks behind Taisa, searching for someone else. Isn't the other one with you? The Hirosaka guy? Yumito? No. Taisa shakes his head. When Lord Enzo adopted your ranking system, Yumito and Ryuka were promoted directly to Chunin. I still have to fight my way up the ranks, though. That means you defeated a Chunin? Yakimaru says. So you're already on your way to becoming one, too. I wouldn't say that. He and Taisa had just lost their parents. They were emotional. If we fought again with clear heads, there's no telling if I'd win. Taisa lowers, cheeks flushed red. Yeah, sorry about that. It's fine. Katori pats him on the shoulder. You didn't know what was happening. But now we can fight for a good cause. Not as enemies. Taisa looks up with a smile. I won't lose this time, though. I can't wait. She grins. Hey, I'm gonna call a whole bunch of people to hang out from all different villages if you wanna come with. I'll think about it. I ought to go now. Taisa points over to further away from their spot. My team's waiting for me. See you soon. Katori says as Taisa takes his leave. One more friend's arrived, a more unexpected one, but still welcome. For the next couple of hours, the gang keep a watchful eye on the horizon from atop their perch. The Hidden Dreams village is much farther west than the Hidden Sand, so surely they shouldn't be far behind. Supposedly the Hidden Dreams had an early start to be here on time. They keep on eating sweets and drinking tea from a nearby stall until finally they see a ship approach with a familiar flag on it. 2 flags, actually. I see it. Katori exclaims. The Hidden Sands ship. Shoto leans forward and narrows his eyes. And the Hidden Stone, too. Did they come together? I guess there's no reason not to, right? Yakimaru says. Since we're all allies. Let's go and see if they're here. Katori jumps off the building and runs down its walls to head back to the docks themselves. It takes a few minutes for the ship to properly come to a stop and get ready for the passengers to onboard. All the while, the 3 of them wait in anticipation, Katori and Yakimaru more so, to see who the Hidden Sand teams are. Their wait is eventually answered when through the crowd, they spot 2 figures. Obviously older than they remember but still recognizable, they see the familiar faces of Sanjin and Teori, accompanied by what's most likely their teammate with a large fan strapped to her back, and their sensei Mitsuri. Katori can hardly hold her excitement, her first instinct to run over and greet them, but knowing that right now that's the Hidden Mist's job. So she anxiously waits for them to move away from the welcoming party and head off. When they finally do, Katori jumps up and down while waving to grab their attention. Sanjin, Teori. Sanjin is the first to notice, narrowing his uncertain eyes to see if that really is who he thinks it is. Katori? He walks over to her. Teori looks back in time to see Sanjin draw closer to the crowd. Where are you going? She then looks ahead and sees precisely where he's going. Katori bursts out of the crowd and gives Sanjin a big hug. I knew you two would be here. Sangain stumbles back a bit from the sudden attack and gives a lighter hug in return. It's good to see you again, Katori. Hey, what are you doing? Teori runs in and pries Katori off. Get off him. Katori, not even registering the other girl's tone, hugs Teori in turn. I missed you guys so much. We missed you, too. Sanjin says. Speak for yourself. Teori mutters. I'm really glad you're also in the exams. Sanjin smiles. All of you. He looks back to the approaching Yakimaru and Shoto. Gotta say I wasn't sure you'd be here. Shoto chuckles and takes a light bow in greeting. Yakimaru waves. I was hoping. We couldn't really miss it, could we? Sanjin says and takes a passing look over the 3 of them. It didn't feel like a lot of time's passed until now. Right? Katori grins and does a little twirl. We've become super awesome ninja now. Oh, yeah? Taori takes a step forward and crosses her arms. Don't think we've been slacking off. We're gonna show you how strong we've gotten. Katori nods. I can't wait. Once again, Katori's energy throws Taori off. She's trying to assert some kind of dominance, but Katori doesn't even seem to notice. Yakimaru speaks up. Say, we have others here at the exams we met on missions, we're planning a big get-together. Oh, right, I almost forgot. Katori says. You have to come. Please? Catching up sounds nice, right, Taori? Sanjin looks to his teammate. I guess. Then it's a deal. I'll track you down later. No, we'll track you down when we're ready. Taori says before grabbing Sanjin's arm and pulling him away. Come on, let's go. See you later. Sanjin waves with his body half-turned while being dragged. As they get further into the crowd, Taori says, you can't just let people hug you like that. But she's our friend, isn't she? Sanjin replies, confused. Dummy. Taori mumbles and lets go of his arm, the two walking to Mitsuri-sensei and Taiko side by side. Back at the docks themselves, Katori places her hands on her hips and smiles ear to ear. Everyone's here. I almost can't believe it. It's nice to see everyone again. Yakimaru says. Everyone seems to have gotten a lot stronger. Then we can't let Master Naruto's training go to waste. I'm going back to the apartment to talk to his shadow clone. I can't just sit by and idle, after all. Then let's train together then. As the three of them move together through the crowd, they have to maneuver a bit to get back out from the crowd that's also beginning to scatter a bit. During the commotion, Shoto inadvertently bumps into people or people bump into him, with one collision being particularly rough when he bumps into a girl seemingly his age. My apologies. She's quick to say sorry. The girl whips her head back, putting her Hidden Stone Village forehead protector and spiky hair on better display. Watch where you're. She then looks down at Shoto's clothes and his clan's emblem emblazoned on his chest. The girl narrows her eyes. Teshin. Shoto cocks his head. Do I know you? Of course you don't. That would require you to stay in your own village. She turns around and walks away without saying anything. Shoto narrows his eyes. What's her problem? He keeps an eye on her as much as he can through the crowd while he goes back to Katori and Yakimaru. The stone girl does look back once and their eyes meet before she heads farther in the village with her team. The next day. Mizukage Tower. Now that the full cast of participants have arrived, the fifth Mizukage has summoned all of the sensei for a formal meeting before everything goes underway. 12 members of the Shinobi Union. 48 teams, a total of 144 genin, set to take part in these historic Chunin exams. Most of the sensei have gathered already, with a few on their way. Naruto and Shino are mingling with the others, many interested in speaking with Naruto in particular, his reputation not at all dwindled despite the years it's been since the war. While Naruto has a small crowd around him, one person rather approaches Shino instead. A middle-aged man wearing the uniform of the Hidden Moon Village. Tambo Tsujibashi. Shino bows his head to the man. I'm glad we could meet again. Tambo returns the bow. I am, too. I was hoping to meet again, I just never thought it'd be this soon. I heard from Kashiwama and the rest that they met Hifumi. Have you taken on a three-man cell for the exams? Indeed. Tambo nods. If we wanted to participate, we had to adopt the standard used by the other villages, so we put together teams of 3. I can't imagine it'd have been easy to form a team this close to the Chunin exams. Shino says. Tambo sighs. No, it wasn't. I did what I could to get their teamwork up to par. I hope the results show. I'm certain they will. Over to the side, Naruto finally manages to wrangle himself free of the people seeking a conversation with himself. Kuretsuchi approaches from behind and pats him on the shoulder. You sure are popular. She laughs. Naruto spins around to see the unseen presence. Oh, Kuretsuchi. You're here, too? Sure am. With a genin team, too, if you can believe that. I've seen stranger things. Naruto chuckles. I don't doubt you have. I sure hope you've trained the kids well, cause mine are in this to win. Kuretsuchi bumps him on the chest. All eyes will be on Naruto Uzumaki's team. A third voice chimes in from behind. They turn around to see Samui walking to them. I assume there's quite a bit of pressure. Naruto chuckles. Heh, maybe. But those 3 are probably too focused on their own goals right now to care about any of that. It's good to see you again, Naruto, this time both as Jonin-sensei. Samui gives a light smile. Kuretsuchi gives Samui an appraising look. You were at the last joint Chunin exams, weren't you? The one held in the Leaf. Samui nods. I was, yes. And now you're here with another team. Impressive. Most Jonin don't pick up a new team this soon. My old team are already all Chunin, so I was technically free of obligation. Normally I'd have taken a break as well, but these three are special. You could say they played a vital role in my wanting to become a sensei in the first place. Naruto and Samui share a knowing smile, both recognizing Kotori's infectious energy as prompting Samui to consider taking up the mantle, and in particular for the three students who were closest to Kotori. Kuretsuchi quizzically cocks her head. I see. The murmuring and conversing comes to a stop when the now full rooftop all turn their attention to the stairway that leads up to here. The scattered Jonin sensei take their places. All 4 Jonin from each village standing side by side, the 12 groups ordered in a 3x4 formation. The 5th Mizukage Meitarumi walks up and stands in front of everyone. Behind her are an elder of the Hidden Mist, flanked by 2 of his associates, and one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Hidden Mist, Chijuro. Typically, the only other member of the group would be there as well, but Saizo Kairin currently stands with the other Jonin sensei. Mei looks over each and every one of the 48 men and women gathered here and smiles. It's a great pleasure and honor to welcome you all here for this special occasion. I know these words are uttered many times and they always are true, but this is a milestone for not just the Shinobi Union, but the entire world. This is the first time such a varied assembly has gathered, and the first time it's for a good cause, not driven by strife or fear. I look forward to this event with great curiosity. The 2 aides then step forward and begin distributing folders to the gathered sensei. In the folders Mei continues speaking, you'll find the outline for the exams to come. It will be done in 3 stages as is customary. The first exam will be a mock mission for them to complete and will be marked based on how they overcome the obstacles set before them. The second exam will be team battles. And the final exam will be a tournament. If too many genin reach the finals, an elimination round will be held prior. Naruto takes a look at the briefing and stops when he sees what's in store for the kids. Hey, Shino, this is… Yes. Shino nods. The second exam may prove interesting. Man, this could be heartbreaking for them if they get unlucky. Or it would deepen their bonds. We'll simply have to wait and see. Mei ensures that everyone has had the opportunity to at least gloss over their folders. Naturally, none of this information is to reach your students. Any team suspected of cheating will be immediately disqualified from the exams. If you've any further questions or concerns, I'm available in my office. If I'm not, Ganbi and Hiki are more than qualified to answer in my stead. She motions to the 2 aides. Ganbi and Hiki both take a bow. If you've any questions now, you may ask. If not, you're free to prepare for tomorrow however you see fit. While the sensei are busy with their meeting and their briefing, the kids have taken a more relaxed approach to the final day before the exam. Team Naruto, Team Shino, Team Samui, Team Fio, Team Mitsuri, along with Hifumi and Taisa, are all gathered in one place. Mostly through Kotori's persistence and stubbornness to gather all of the friends she'd made and hang out together. For many of them it's their first time meeting, but they quickly find each other's speed and enjoy each other's company, driven by Kotori's endless enthusiasm. What the kids don't know, too busy being wrapped up in conversation, is that their sensei are on a nearby rooftop and observing. I kind of don't want to break it up. Mitsuri says. Then perhaps we shouldn't. Shino says. Allow them to have a day for themselves. I suppose some rest is welcome after the month of preparation. Samui chimes in. It'll do them good to share more memories. Mitsuri says. It's been a while since they met. It's odd to think all of them are connected through Kotori. Fio smiles. She'd had quite the effect on a lot of people. Like father, like daughter. Shino adds in jest. Naruto chuckles. Nah, she was like this before I came into her life. I do agree it might be best to leave them be for now. They're having fun now, but do you think they'll be fine after the exams? Tambo Tsujibashi asks. They'll be competing against each other, after all. Naruto shrugs. Gaara and I tried to kill each other in our Chunin exams, and we're still friends. The others give Naruto a very confused look. Then how about we follow our Genin's example? Fio offers. Grab a drink. Sounds like a plan to me. Naruto stretches his arms and turns around to look to the others with a grin. End of chapter 85. Chapter 86. Chunin Exams Part 4. First exam. Emotions continue to run hot, or perhaps even hotter, on the day of. Kotori stands in front of the mirror of her room and takes deep controlled breaths. She's looking down at her forehead protector on the dressing table. Today's the day. She exhales. You got this, Kotori. You got this. She slaps her cheeks and places the protector on her forehead. With one final look in the mirror, she gives a reaffirming nod to herself and heads out her room and into the common area. Yakimaru is already sitting on the couch, his leg nervously tapping on the floor. Shoto is stood by the balcony window, observing the mist with an intense stare. Both seem to be absorbed in their own world and don't initially notice Katori until she steps on a more creaky plank. "You two ready for this?" she asks. "Naturally." Shoto responds. "As ready as I'll ever be." Yakimaru says in a slightly shaky voice. "You need to get rid of this uncertainty." Shoto says in a stern voice. "We won't win if you hesitate." "I'm not." Yakimaru protests. "I'm just nervous. Just give me a moment, okay?" "Yeah, Shoto, we still have time. Relax for a bit. We got this." Katori grins. "We better." Yakimaru looks up to him with defiant eyes. "Are you sure you're not talking so much because you're even more nervous?" Shoto takes a single step forward. "What did?" Hey. Naruto walks into the room with a quickened pace. "What do you think you're doing? Is this really the time for this?" He scolds them. "After everything you've been through, all the training. Now's not the time to fight." He sighs and walks to them more slowly. "Shoto, there's nothing wrong with being nervous as long as it doesn't impact the mission. You're allowed to voice uncertainty, that doesn't somehow make you weaker." Shoto lowers his head. "Yes, master." "And Yakimaru, you can't let your doubt take over you and lash out at others. We're at the final stages, this is where you show me what I know you're all capable of." "Yes, sensei." "If you're both good, then apologize to each other." Yakimaru and Shoto look at each other, cheeks redden from embarrassment that they let their nerves get the better of them. "I'm sorry." They sincerely say in unison. "You're right." Shoto mumbles under his breath. Katori furrows her brow and leans closer. "What?" "I said you're right." Shoto blurts out. "I am nervous. I want to restore the Teshin clan's name more than anything, but I don't even know where to begin. Passing this exam and becoming Chunin might do it or it might not, I don't know. And that's fine." Naruto walks over and pulls him into a hug. "Whatever happens in this exam, no, it's not the end. Not by a long shot. I was a genin until I was like 18. He shrugs. The three of them have a second of delay before they all whip their heads to him. "Wait, what?" "Yeah. Things just kinda kept happening and there was never any time. I was only a Chunin for about a week when I met you, Katori." Katori dramatically falls to her knees and hits the ground. "How am I only now hearing about this?" "So you didn't pass your Chunin exams, sensei?" Yakimaru asks. Naruto shakes his head. "Nope. Those kinda got interrupted when we got attacked, and me and Gaara tried to kill each other, then the third Hokage died, and we had to hold the funeral, then I went on a trip with my teacher, and then I went away for 2 years. There was a lot going on." "What kind of life did you lead?" Naruto shrugs. "It is what it is. Now, have you three settled down?" "Yeah." "Then let's head out. You got an exam to pass." While the Hidden Mist Village and the Land of Water are known for their humidity and, well, water, it's not all they have to offer. The landscape is just as vast and varied as places like the lush Land of Fire. It's at the base of a nearby mountain that all 48 teams are gathered. There's a tall and long chain link fence that goes beyond what they can see. At set intervals are multiple doors all locked tight with thick chains and a padlock. There's a lot of whispering and murmuring about what might await them. Most villages' teams stand together, some showing a degree of nervousness, while others remain seemingly unfazed by the challenges to come. Katori stands more to the back alongside Takai, with the rest of their teammates being not too far away. "You ready for whatever's gonna happen?" Katori asks, clearly feeling her nerves getting the better of her. She was fine up until now, wondering why Yakimaru and Shoto were so quick to argue this morning. But now that she stands in front of this many genin, this many people she'll have to compete against, it finally kinda sinks in how tough this might be. "I think so." Takai says before going silent for a moment and shaking her head. "No, I am. I have to be." "Right." Katori nods. "We didn't train all this time for nothing. Dad taught us a lot about teamwork and cooperation, this is where we use it. Samui-sensei, too." Speaking of, Katori turns around to look for any authoritative figure nearby, only to find none. "Where are all the sensei?" "I don't actually know." Takai looks around too. "Samui-sensei just told us to head here and went off somewhere else." "Yeah, same with Dad." Nearby, Shoto carefully examines the other genin here, checking out which of them are more nervous and which are more confident. He sees Matsu's team are talking normally, seemingly without a care. Sanjin's showing a bit of nerves, but Tauri's got the confidence to make up for it. He notices Bunten briefly glancing their way with a chilling glare. He wonders if their sensei killing her father has something to do with her demeanor, but that's an issue for another time. Oddly enough, he notices a tall Oni-looking girl from the hidden mountain looking their way, too, from time to time, but he's fairly certain they've never even met her. Finally, he sees the stone girl who he bumped into at the docks who seemed to have taken some issue, despite also never having met her. He decides he may as well try to get to the bottom of it. He walks over to the girl. He believes he heard her sensei call her Tsukasa before. She looks at him from the corner of her eye as he approaches. "What do you want, Teshin?" she asks. "I should be asking you that. You seem to have a problem with me when I don't even know you." "Of course you don't," Tsukasa scoffs. She turns to face him, looking down thanks to the few centimeters she has over him. "Because your grandfathers ran away with their tails between their legs and you decided to go to the very same village who humiliated them to be trained by a Hyuga." Shoto clicks his tongue. "Is that what this is about? What, you think the hidden stone is owed some kind of undying allegiance? A shinobi who doesn't care about allegiance is a very dangerous thing, Teshin," Tsukasa warns. "If you wanted to become one, that's one of the first things you should have learned. I wanted to be a shinobi so I took the best chance I got. The hidden stone didn't want us then, so I see no reason to want us now. I'll prove every single one of you wrong about the Teshin clan." Tsukasa shakes her head. "You don't have the conviction. Never did. Now stop wasting my time. Then I'll show you during the Chunin exam where my convictions lie." Shoto turns around and walks away. As he passes by Team Shino, Jiriki lets out a chuckle. "Someone who doesn't like you as much as I do. Maybe she and I will get along." "Not in the mood, Jiriki." Shoto just passes by and goes to stand by Yakamaru. Jiriki raises a brow, not often seen Shoto to pass up an argument. Seems like facing his clan's home village stung deep. Yoku looks at his friend with worry. "Are you okay?" "Just fine." As some more time passes, the genin continuing to wonder why there are no adult figures present, not just their sensei, it seems like their questions are about to be answered. Several shinobi appear in front of the main gate they were told to wait, hidden Miss Chunin and Jonin, but also several dozen men and women in plain traveler's clothes. Simple shirts and vests. The genin take this as a sign to gather and possibly receive instructions. They gather as they were previously instructed, with the 4 teams from each village standing in a column, 1 column for each village. One man steps forward and looks over each team to ensure they're present and at attention. Welcome to the first ever Chunin exams to have this many villages in attendance. Today marks a monumental day for all shinobi. Please remember this when you proceed today. No matter what happens today, you're part of history. Once he finishes his introductory speech, a woman steps up from the lineup to address the genin. For this first exam, you will be tested on your teamwork, your cohesion, your ability to think on your feet. She motions to the people dressed in plain clothes. You'll take part in a mock mission to escort these doctors transporting medicine to a nearby village where children have fallen deathly ill. You must get the medicine to the village in 3 days' time before it becomes too late, and the only way to reach it in such a short amount of time is through the mountains. One stone genin laughs. An escort mission? Piece of cake, we've done dozens of those. A cloud genin pumps her fists in early celebration. And here I was worried. Many other genin join in chatter, discussing this assignment amongst themselves, certain that they have it in the bag. As if it'd be that easy, you idiots. Jiriki scoffs. The examiner smiles far wider than a person should. I'm pleased to see your confidence. Then please step forward and meet the people you'll be escorting. Each of the teams moves ahead, picking a merchant at random. At this stage, it doesn't seem to matter much which team will be paired with which merchant. There doesn't seem to be any identifying marks on them that would set them apart. After looking around for a moment, seeing many of the teams already having grabbed someone at random, Katori spots someone she actually vaguely recognizes. A man with short brown hair and no real distinguishing features. It's difficult to remember every person you've ever encountered, especially if it was for a short time, but this person was present for the final leg of their journey, back when they traveled from village to village. Katori dashes towards him, leaving Yakamaru and Shoto to follow after her, confused. She stops right in front of him with a grin. "Hello, Mr. Gonbi." Gonbi laughs. "Hello, Katori. I'm surprised you remember me." "Of course I do." Shoto leans over to Yakamaru and whispers, "I don't." Yakamaru whispers back, "Mr. Gonbi took us from the land of waves to the land of water, with Shijuro." "Oh." Shoto vaguely recalls such an ordinary-looking person being present. "I'm glad to see you've made it this far." Or rather, Gonbi clears his throat and straightens his back, "It's a pleasure to meet you, young shinobi." Already in character, huh, Shoto says. We must get this medicine to the sick children as soon as possible. Ganbi says in a panicked tone. Katori giggles. You got it, mister. Let's go, you two, we have children to cure. Do we need to play along with this? Shoto sighs. Yakimaru chuckles. I think it's fun. As Ganbi begins leading them to their designated gate, one of the many paths available for this exam, Katori looks back through the crowd to find her friends. She sees Team Samui, Matsu and his teammates, Sanjin and Teori with theirs, and of course Team Shino. She gives them all a thumbs up. See you on the other side. She calls out to them. Kashiwama returns the thumbs up. See you there. Takai waves as Heiai and Kitsui nod with a light smile. Matsu gives a thumbs up of his own. Teori calls out, we'll get there first. Shoto notes the unwanted attention Katori's call has given them, too. Some not-so-friendly faces, such as the Hidden Stone team, Bunten Kurasuki, and the Oni girl from the Hidden Mountain. Again, an issue for later. Right now, they have an escort mission to complete. Hidden Mist Village Communications Tower. The reason the sensei were nowhere to be seen is because they're currently all together in a tower, instructed to leave their teams to their own devices and not ask for any last-minute assistance with anything. The 4 hidden Leaf Jonin are in their own room, with separate monitors for each of them to follow their Genin team's progress. They're all sitting on their individual cushions and watching the gate their respective teams have picked, with a remote in hand to switch to a different view when needed. They see the precise moment the first exam begins and their teams begin the trek through the mountains. Naruto exhales after holding his breath in for longer than he'd thought, and it's starting. You got this, guys. Tessen chuckles. You sound worried, Naruto. I didn't know you could be, Kokage says. Of course I worry, Naruto says. Same should go for all of you, right? He then. True, Tessen says. Your kids do any last-minute prep for this? Naruto shrugs, just the usual training. They didn't know what the first exam would be, so couldn't really do anything specific. What about you, Shino? Kokage asks. You've been awfully quiet. He usually is, Naruto chuckles. Shino, for the first time in a while, looks away from the screen. My team has found the secret element. Wait, what, already? Naruto, Tessen, and Kokage rush to Team Shino's monitor to see for themselves. They shove Shino aside and glue their faces to the screen. It's only been a few minutes. Tessen says. I suppose they are uniquely equipped for this. That basically means Team Shino passed. Kokage says. Not precisely. Shino shoves them all back to regain some personal space. They've uncovered the thing that gives them the most points on the exam, but it's still not a guarantee. I feel like they got the rest in the bag, though, Naruto says. Team 5 is more than capable of handling it. I'd rather not celebrate early, Shino responds. Naruto looks back to his monitor to see his team's progress. First exam. Day 1st. The first leg of the journey is an uneventful one. A simple escort with not much to do. Still, knowing that this is actually an exam is nerve-wracking. Team Naruto are more than aware that every single one of their actions is being judged by Ganbi. They're currently in the formation they thought best for their task. Shoto is leading the party, ready to halt any frontal attacks with his Tai Jutsu and Earth-style ninjutsu. Katori is in the middle alongside Ganbi, who's pulling his cart. With her versatility, she can easily react to threats from any side by sending her birds, while she remains to guard the client. Lastly, Yakimaru is at the red as the most defensive of the three, ready to spring into action with his crystal style. The initial leg of the journey is uneventful. Most of it consists of helping Ganbi pull the cart through such rocky and uneven terrain and helping him keep a good pace. Ganbi puts in a lot of effort to play the part of a weaker civilian who couldn't keep up with 3 junior shinobi. At about the middle of the travel day, Katori moves a bit to the side and kneels down and begins a set of hand signs. I'll look ahead. You guys cover my back. Aviary. Sparrows. A handful of feathers materialize around her to form a flock of sparrows. They immediately fly ahead and scatter in different directions. Katori remains in place for a moment with her eyes closed before moving ahead and repeating the process. She stays in one spot while the cart moves past her, then she moves a bit ahead. Ganbi carefully observes her as she does it and makes note of her behavior. Katori Uzumaki. I read Naruto Uzumaki's report on her skillset. She can apparently see through the sparrow's eyes and scout ahead that way. It's an extremely useful ability, but it seems she loses her own senses while using it, so she can't perceive any threats around her and can't freely move as a result. It's not an ability that can be used to its full extent while moving. However, she has no reason to expect danger at this stage. She's perhaps only using this jutsu because she knows she's in an exam and is expecting something to happen. Shoto glances back from time to time to ensure all is well, checking that Katori is keeping pace, but also keeping an eye on Ganbi. He notices how their examiner, as that's what he is at this moment, seems very focused on Katori and how she's moving. Perhaps overly so. Katori, Shoto catches her in a moment where her senses are returned. You probably shouldn't spend too much chakra right now. We should rely on our own senses until we suspect there's foul play. Katori nods. Okay. I didn't find anything, anyway. Just keep your own eyes and ears sharp. Shoto glances back at Ganbi. Ganbi simply smiles in response. Shoto Teshin. He seems to also be mindful that this is an exam, but in a different way from Katori. He's more focused on not making any mistakes in his actions. Nearing the end of their travel day, the group find themselves having to traverse a very narrow path that stands on a cliffside. The ledge is a good few dozen meters high, not a distance one wants to fall from. The issue arises when it becomes clear that this ledge is far too narrow to comfortably support the cart. Oh dear me. Ganbi mock gasps and looks around in panic. How will I ever traverse this path? Do you really need to ham it up this much? Shoto sighs. Fear not, my good sir. Katori pounds her chest. We're on the job. Shoto face palms. Could we maybe carry it over? Yakimaru suggests. I would advise against it, it's quite heavy. Ganbi says. Katori steps closer to the edge and ponders their options for a moment before something clicks. What if we only carry half of it? Ganbi raises a brow. How? Katori grins and steps off the ledge, holding herself in place with chakra. You push the cart on the path, and I'll hold it from underneath like this. Easy. If you think this to be wise. Ganbi moves forward with care and a hint of apprehension. He carefully positions the cart so as much of it is on the path as possible, and as he moves onto it proper, Katori holds it even from her position. It seems to be holding well for now. Ganbi pushes the cart forward, and Katori moves along with it while keeping it as steady as she can. Shoto jumps over Ganbi to take the front once more. I'll keep an eye on the path ahead, make sure if it's stable. Yakimaru follows behind the cart and looks to Katori. If you get tired, just say and we'll swap. I will, thanks. The trek then continues surprisingly well, all things considered. Katori shows off her strength and endurance by holding the cart for nearly the entire time. It's a bumpy ride, but she manages it just fine. Shoto makes use of his earth-style ninjutsu to shift pieces of the ground to make it more stable. He can't do it for the entire time as he needs to preserve his chakra in case it's truly necessary, but he makes the trip a bit safer nonetheless. Yakimaru, meanwhile, stays in the back with not much to do for the duration. He keeps an eye out for danger, but there seems to be none that he can see so far. He does, however, eye Ganbi and what he's doing and notices something that piques his curiosity. From time to time, Ganbi lets go of the cart with one hand to reach on the side of the cart and touch a certain point before quickly moving his back to hold the handles. As far as he's aware, there's nothing there. The latch that holds the doors in place is right in front of Ganbi, so if he's ensuring they don't suddenly fly open and the medicine falls down the ravine, he'd be checking there and not at the side. He decides it best not to delve too much into that right now. It's not the time for it. Unbeknownst to him, he was also being observed. From the corner of his eyes, Ganbi watches where and what Yakimaru is looking. As steadily as the trek has been going up until this point, something was bound to happen. Ganbi did not select this particular path for nothing. He picks a moment where Shoto is more preoccupied with the path ahead to put the kids to the test. Katori has her hands fully, quite literally, holding up quite the heavy load. This test will be for Yakimaru. As Ganbi walks the path, he steps on a bad spot where the rocky edge doesn't hold together as well. The stones crumble and he loses his footing. With the loss of balance, he lets go of the cart's handles and falls over the ledge. Ah, no. He cries out. As soon as it happens, Team Naruto all register this and their minds begin working. Shoto is the slowest to react as he's farther away, but he does manage to catch a glimpse of Ganbi falling from the corner of his eye. Katori instinctively reaches out a hand to try and grasp Ganbi's, but now that the full weight of the cart is on her, she can't move quick enough to reach him. Yakimaru places his hands on the ground. Crystal style. Divine pathway. Crystals form at the base of his hands and move forward in a herringbone pattern, gradually growing larger and larger. Large enough, they'd be able to support a grown man by breaking his fall. Yakimaru's mind begins going over the calculations. The speed, the direction, the hardness. If I do it too late, he'll fall, but if I do it too early, I could end up crystallizing Gonbi's limbs. Can I do it? Can I control it well enough? I still have trouble controlling the speed to hardness ratio. If they end up being too brittle and break apart. A split second is all that's needed for a disaster to happen. And that thought is enough for Yakimaru's mind to waver. His divine pathway slows down to the point that it completely misses Gonbi. It forms just above him, far enough where Gonbi can't even reach it to grab. Yakimaru's heart feels like it's going to burst as he watches Gonbi continue to fall. Katori's eyes widen in shock, but she doesn't remain idle. She moves sideways to support the cart with her shoulder so he can have both hands free. Aviary. Condor. Long blade-like feathers spring forth into existence and quickly cluster together in the shape of the predator. Shoto slams his hand on the ground. Earth style? Earth-moving core. A block bursts out from the cliffside just under Gonbi to halt his sudden descent. The condor grabs Gonbi by the shoulders and helps him land on his feet on the block of stone that Shoto created. Katori takes a deep sigh of relief. Yakimaru remains in place, visibly shaken. Shoto simply closes his eyes and takes a breath to calm himself. With the help of the condor, Gonbi gets back up to the ledge. Oh dear me, that was nearly the end of me. Gonbi exclaims. Are you okay? Katori asks, now shifting herself to hold the cart with her hands instead of her shoulder. Somehow, yes. Oi, Yakimaru, Shoto looks over the cart at his teammate. What the hell was that? I thought we went over this. Yakimaru averts his gaze. I'm sorry. You lost your cool and could have cost us the exam if our client died. I panicked, Yakimaru says in a barely audible whisper. If my crystal style had reached Mr. Gonbi. Shoto clicks his tongue. Crystal style this, crystal style that. You always go on about how worried you are about it, but it's never been an issue. It hasn't been an issue because I worry about it. Guys, it's fine, we handled it. Katori tries to play mediator. Let's just get off this path. Arguing in front of the client. Not typically a good look, although none of them are Chunin. They don't have a hierarchy at the moment, no elected leader, either. Gonbi looks over them all as this goes on. Still, you have my gratitude for saving my life. You're all incredible. He looks over all of them with a bright smile. There's no hint of judgment or blame in his smile, but Yakimaru can't help but feel guilty for what he did, or rather what he didn't do. Yakimaru Kagatsu. Wielder of the extraordinary crystal style Keke Tota. A powerful shinobi in his own right with a powerful skill set, yet his self-doubt and uncertainty loom over him. It seems to be a recurring problem. The other two reacted quickly enough to cover for his mistake. This time. At the end of the first day, the team makes camp to spend the night. The genin pitch their tents and gather logs for the burning campfire, while Gonbi looks over his cart for any damage to its wheels or overall structure. As Yakimaru finishes up his tasks, he makes his way to check up on Gonbi and once again sees the man looking over a part of the cart that would normally not sustain damage and need looking over. Once he gets closer, Gonbi looks up and moves away from the cart. Ah, young Yakimaru, how can I help? I just wanted to check if the cart's okay. If you need help with any repairs. No, that's quite alright. It seems to have held up perfectly fine. And Yakimaru looks down at his feet to apologize for not reacting in time. No apology is needed. I'm sure you did the best you could. And besides, your friends saved me, so all is well. No harm done. Gonbi steps forward and pats the boy on the shoulder. Instead of fretting, why don't we get food ready? Yes sir. Yakimaru nods. Before going back to the fire, he takes one last glance at the cart. His abilities during emergency situations can still use work, but he has a sharp eye. He's already suspecting. First exam. Day 2nd. The second day takes them on a much nicer and easier to traverse path through a more forested part of the mountain. It starts off nice and quiet until the bears attack. Two massive ursine barge their way through the trees with paws as thick as a trunk and a frame as overbearing as a shed. One of them presses its paw on a tree and snaps it in half as it pushes its entire weight on it. Shoto firmly plants his feet on the ground, assuming a battle stance. Mr. Gonbi, are these someone's pets or are they wild and we can go all out? Gonbi gasps in shock. Oh no, we're being attacked by wild bears. Whatever shall we do? Can you just drop the stupid act for a? Shoto sighs in annoyance. They're way smaller than the snakes, we got this. Earth style? Earth spear. His forearms turn a dark brown, primed to strike just as they charge forward with a deafening roar. Yakimaru places his hands on the ground. Shoto, back to the wall. Katori, go up the cliff. Without a moment of hesitation, Katori runs to the side rather than forward toward the bears. Crystal style? Crystal encampment wall. A large barrier of pink crystal grows between Shoto and the cart. Katori runs over the crystal wall to get the high ground. Feather kunai barrage. She sends down a rain of condor feathers that catch the bears by surprise. The ones that miss are embedded deep into the ground, but the ones that hit hard. The bears roar in anger, and their assault is slowed for now, but they may become more aggressive as a result. Shoto, having stayed back to not get caught in the barrage of feathers, places his foot against Yakimaru's crystal wall and uses it to propel himself forward. He ducks under a powerful swing from the bear strong enough to send a gust of blowing behind him. Shoto strikes the bear's massive paw away and delivers a series of quick punches. The bear swings again, but Shoto nimbly dodges out of the way to reach the stomach. He pulls back his fist and lunges forward. One fist raised at his head level with the palm facing down. One fist lowered at gut level with the palm facing up. Two-handed punch. The impact sends the bear flying back into the trees whence it came. Meanwhile, the other bear has been trying to claw at the cliff to reach Katori, who's been sticking to the wall, ready to follow up her feathers. Bears are good climbers generally, but this one can't reach fast enough. Aviary. Ostrich. The large flightless bird materializes next to her and propels itself down with its bulky legs. It lunges downward at great speeds, aimed to deliver a kick, but the bear swings with its own fearsome weapon. However, it's fighting two opponents. Feather kunai. Katori sends out several more kunai ahead of the ostrich to pierce the bear and distract for the finish. Ninja art. Crushing impact. She channels her chakra into the ostrich's legs to give its kick a great boost. With a single kick to the head, the bear crumbles to the ground motionless. All right, Katori cheers. The ground quakes. I think it's too early to cheer, Shoto says. The ground quakes again. What's happening? Is it a landslide? Ganbi panics. From behind the trees, a third bear emerges. Much larger, much thicker, and much more menacing than the ones before, towering as a house if not even bigger. Dark black matted fur with missing patches and an overabundance of battle scars. One ear torn and one eye seemingly permanently closed from scars it sustained over its life. Go, Katori commands her avian companion. The ostrich runs forward with Shoto right behind. Seeing this, the bear swings its claws down. It rends the ostrich to pieces in one hit, and as its paw hits the ground, it cracks and breaks into tiny chunks. Shoto jumps back to avoid the bear's earth-shattering strike. The cracking spreads toward Yakimaru's wall and up the cliffside. Stepping over the ostrich feathers, the bear roars. Shoto steps back to plan his next move when Yakimaru jumps atop his wall. I'll try and hold it in place, Yakimaru declares as he places his hands on the crystal. Crystal style? Crystal branching tree. From the wall emerge multiple smaller branch-like protrusions that expand farther and farther ahead, each time sprouting new deviations. Despite the name, it ends up appearing more like a spider web than a tree. The bear steps back at the sight of the mysterious rocks that grow toward it. Oh, no, you don't, Shoto places his hands on the ground. Earth style? Stone bamboo shoots. Four spear-like pillars emerge from the ground and cliffside surrounding the bear. Unexpecting the ground itself to turn against it, the bear it caught by surprise. The stone spears dig into its body to create a makeshift cage and lock it in place for a second. The bear manages to break one of the chutes apart with some difficulty as it's found itself stuck in an awkward pose, but it's not quick enough. Yakimaru's jutsu surround the bear with crystals and pierce its skin. Now that it's immobile even for a bit, Katori sees her chance to strike. She drops down toward the trapped bear with two condor feathers in her hands, leaving behind a trail of wind as the feathers vibrate with chakra. Wind style? Feather blade. She slashes at the bear's neck and lands safely on the ground next to it. The bear falls limp. Katori looks around as soon as the fight is over. Are there any more? I can't hear any, if there are, Shoto replies as he tries to listen in for any more bears. I'm glad that went over as well as it did. Yakimaru laughs and sits down on his crystalline wall. Ganbi looks up at the laughing Yakimaru. Despite his meekness and uncertainty yesterday, he's now confident and even took charge when he formed the wall. When it comes to people, it seems he worries about hurting them, but in situations like this, he has nothing to worry about. He truly flip-flops between confident and uncertain. Still, they work well together and didn't get in each other's way. Now, the only problem is, he waves to try and get Yakimaru's attention. Excuse me, is it safe now? Are the bears gone? Yakimaru looks back and gives Ganbi a thumbs up. Yes, we can continue safely. How? Ganbi points to the crystalline wall. Yakimaru then looks down at his wall, then to the branching extensions, to the stone pillars Shoto created, and the destroyed ground from the bear's attack. This is gonna take a while, Yakimaru says. It takes the team a good while to clear everything. Yakimaru releases his jutsu to shatter it into small chunks of crystal, but the damage it did to the ground by crystallizing it is not something he can fix. Shoto removes his stone bamboo shoots, but there's a bit of instability in the ground after that he raised and removed a chunk of it. It takes him a while to figure out how to shift the ground with his earth-moving core in order to counteract the damage. Katori, meanwhile, does what she can to clear the rubble in the bear carcasses. They fought well as a team, but didn't consider the damage it would do to the road and slow us down as a result. Gonbi chuckles. When they finish clearing and fixing the path, Katori once again summons her sparrows. Aviary. Sparrows. I'll check the area. I think we actually need it this time. Yeah, that's a good plan, Shoto nods. Katori sends them out in different directions to scout ahead. She forms a different set of hand signs to activate their specific jutsu. All-encompassing sight. Gonbi looks on and decides to continue playing the role of the ignorant merchant. What's she doing? He asks despite knowing exactly what she's doing from Naruto reports. It's one of her jutsu, Yakimaru explains. She can look through the eyes of her sparrows and see what they see. She's going to look ahead to make sure there aren't any more threats waiting for us. Ooh, that's really impressive, Gonbi exclaims. But I also know she can only look through only one of them at a time. While Katori searches, the rest decide to take the time to recoup. Yakimaru and Shoto take a break from clearing the path, and Gonbi simply relaxes. It takes a solid 20 minutes until Katori finally stands up and walks back to the group. I saw someone, Katori reports. A group of 5 camping out not far from here. I almost missed them hiding under some shrubbery. Shinobi? Shoto asks. Katori shakes her head. Didn't look like. They're masked but wearing plain armor. I think they're regular bandits. Or posing as such, Yakimaru chimes. What could bandits be doing out here? Shoto turns to Gonbi. Just so we're clear, this is part of the exam, right? Gonbi gasps. Oh, dear, bandits all the way out here? Right, Shoto sighs. Well, we have the element of surprise. Is that all of them? I didn't see anyone else nearby. I think it's just those 5. I wonder what bandits are doing here in bear territory, though, Yakimaru muses. I don't think they'd be able to handle them like we did. Let's go and ask them. The following sequence goes on surprisingly well. Team Naruto move forward with the knowledge of where the bandits are and how many there are, and with Katori's all-encompassing sight, they can ensure that they don't lose their advantage. When they get close enough, they help Gonbi hide where he should be safe and move out. Sticking to their training, they silently move through the trees and get to a position where they can see the bandits. From there on, the sneak attack is simple enough to execute. Yakimaru blocks off their escape route with a crystal encampment wall. Shoto ups the stakes by raising stone bamboo shoots on the other side. This gives Katori ample opportunity to charge in with her falcons and take out 2 of the bandits during their confusion. Yakimaru and Shoto then follow her to swiftly deal with the remaining 3. It takes all but a few seconds for all 5 bandits to find themselves lying on the ground. Good job, guys. Katori exclaims. Shoto looks down at his hand, balling it up into a fist and then releasing it. Did something feel weird about these guys? Did it? Katori cocks her head. Their bodies were tougher than normal, Yakimaru says as he goes to remove one of the bandits' masks. Underneath, they don't find a person, but rather a smooth wooden oval where a head should be, with the word bandit etched where their face would normally be. Hidden sand puppets? Yakimaru says in surprise. Guess we're supposed to pretend they're real people? Shoto says. Then how are we going to interrogate them? This is silly. Maybe the puppets can talk? Katori suggests. Or the examiners can speak through them. Maybe? Shoto shrugs. Yakimaru takes a moment to observe the bandits. Their clothes are seemingly normal, but as he looks over it more carefully, it seems to be of make that's not often found in the elemental nations. They also have a marking, a tattoo on their shoulders that he doesn't immediately recognize, but something in the back of his head tells him he may know it. As they contemplate, one of the bandits stirs up. It moves much how a real person would, visibly shaken and groggy from the beating it received. It takes a moment to look at its surroundings and backs up when it sees Team Naruto looming over it. However, they don't get to wonder about the interrogation much longer, for a kunai flies from somewhere behind them and lodges right into the bandit's head. Each of the other bandits also gets dealt with by a single kunai. The group immediately turn and assume battle stances. They deflect several kunai and shuriken thrown their way before the barrage of attacks stops. They're going pretty far with this simulation, huh? Shoto says. Mr. Ganbi. Katori exclaims. We have to get back to him. They immediately turn around and rush to return to Ganbi's side. You think they'd be after him? Yakamaru asks. I don't know, but I'm not taking the risk. Katori picks up her pace. They return to Ganbi just in time to hear and see him cry out in distress. A masked figure, dressed not too differently from the bandits, looms over him while he's pressed against a side of card and begging for his life. Katori and Yakamaru waste no time in rushing to Ganbi's defense. Feather kunai barrage. Crystal style. Crystal hexagonal shuriken. They send out a blanket of feathers and crystals at the figure while Shoto runs forward to engage in direct combat. The figure jumps back to avoid being struck, but in doing so becomes an easier target for Shoto. The Teshin boy delivers a series of punches and kicks that are all deflected. The figure jumps back to get away from Shoto and slams a smoke bomb in the ground. When it settles, the figure is gone. They wait for a moment longer to ensure the threat is passed before turning to Ganbi. Are you hurt? Yakamaru immediately begins looking over for injuries and sees a minor gash on Ganbi's arm. He places his hand on the cut and surrounds it in pink chakra. Mystic palm. Thank you, Ganbi pants. Who was that and what did they want? Shoto asks. Ganbi shakes his head, I don't know. They just came out of nowhere and attacked me. Thankfully you showed up right after. There's gotta be more, Katori says. Was that person working with the bandits? Were they supposed to ambush us? That's highly likely, Shoto nods. We need to be extra careful from now on. But why would shinobi and bandits be out here in the first place? Yakamaru asks. This feels like more than highway robbery. I agree. We can get our answers when we meet them next. Shoto turns to Ganbi, are you good to walk? I believe so. Ganbi nods and stands up once his healing is finished. They completely missed that foreign flora that was planted, which scent is what attracted the bears to that specific location. If they had, they could have pieced together there was an ambush waiting for them. Even still, they used their own jutsu to spot the bandits before they could come out. Overall, well done, although they're still missing some clues. For the remainder of the day, Team Naruto move on high alert, constantly on the lookout. Nothing more happens before they have to make camp and rest for the night. First exam. Day 3rd. By their calculations, they're making good time and are set to arrive at their destination with time to spare. They still move with caution as they're not sure what their previous assailants want and whether or not they'd attack again. An enemy whose motives and intentions you're unsure of is quite dangerous indeed. It doesn't actually take them that long to stumble into trouble. Shoto, leading the charge, finds himself almost tripping over a wire, so well hidden that he only saw it at the very last second. Ambush, he calls out. As he does, 4 figures leap out of the trees. 2 from the front, behind where the wire is, 1 from behind, and 1 from the side. Team Naruto is prepared. Crystal style. Crystal encampment wall. Yakamaru immediately erects a barrier to surround Ganbi and Katori. Immediately after he does, he goes on the defensive as one of the figures attacks him. If I can just get to the crystal wall, I can keep strengthening it with my chakra. Yakamaru goes over his options. But I get the feeling it won't be easy. At the front, Shoto hardens his arms and runs to meet both enemies. He keeps them both occupied as much as he can, while his teammates take care of the other 2. As he delivers punch after punch and kick after kick, he notices that just like before, the enemies in this exam are puppets. Normally you'd look for the puppeteer in such a situation, but since this isn't a real combat scenario, they're meant to pretend their attackers are real people. From within the wall, Katori jumps up on the ledge to meet their assailants. She holds 2 condor feathers in her hands and channels her chakra through them. Wind style? Feather blade. She meets the one figure who came out at the middle and blocks his attacks with her blades. She gets a few good swings in, but it becomes clear her opponent seems a bit preoccupied, as if he's not as invested in the fight itself but is trying to get past her. When he finds a chance to slip past, however, he's met with a surprise. A condor swoops up and claws at him to send him back to rethink his options. The condor begins violently flapping its wings, increasing the amount of wind it generates with each motion. Ninja art wind style? Breakthrough. Katori channels her ninjutsu through the condor and sends her enemy flying back. Katori jumps off the wall to go and make sure he doesn't get anywhere near their client. Yakamaru's enemy sees this happen and disengages from their fight and makes a mad dash straight for the cart. What? Yakamaru exclaims in surprise. Why are they going after Ganbi? Yakamaru manages to catch up just as the figure reaches the wall. He kicks the attacker and jumps down to stand between him and Ganbi. Why would they go for the target before dealing with us first? Yakamaru wonders as he sets his next move in action. Crystal style? Crystal branching tree. This time, as he's in the center of the wall, the branches emerge within and cover the area in a thorny cage to keep Ganbi away from danger. The attacker jumps back onto the wall to get away from the threat. Mr. Ganbi, close your eyes. Ganbi does just that. The crystals suddenly begin to give out a light that grows brighter and brighter to the point of covering the entire area in a blinding flash of light. Crystal style? Refraction. A jutsu that shifts the makeup of the crystals and control just how much light is absorbed and released. The result is a large-scale flashbang. Yakamaru takes advantage of the situation and flickers behind his opponent. He wraps his arms around him and forms another set of hand signs. Since you're not real, I don't have to worry about anything. Crystal style? Jade prison. Yakamaru envelops both himself and the puppet in a crystalline structure. After a moment, the crystal breaks and Yakamaru comes out unscathed, while the puppet is broken into pieces. He looks around to see Katori and her condor have dealt with their target, and Shoto has dealt with his, although she looks pretty worse for wear. They both make their way back to the cart to recoup. They help Ganbi get the cart out of Yakamaru's crystal constructions and ensure all is well for them to continue their travels. Looking down at the attackers, Yakamaru once again notes a tattoo on the shoulders, the same one as the bandits. After having some time to think about it, it finally clicks where he knows it from. He walks back to the cart. Once again, you save my life. Ganbi cheers. Truly outstanding. Crystal style? Crystal branching tree. Surprising everyone, crystals emerge from the ground to surround Ganbi and keep him locked in place. Hey, what are you doing? Shoto yells. He's our client. Yakamaru, what's going on? Katori asks. Why would you do such a thing? I hired you to protect me. Ganbi shouts. But we weren't hired to be deceived, Yakamaru states. He walks over to the cart and taps a section on the side. All the while, he never takes his eyes off Ganbi. Shoto, could you break this part? What? Shoto raises a brow. Why? No. Don't. Ganbi yells. Yakamaru looks back to look Shoto in the eyes. Do you trust me? Shoto looks him right back, seeing the confidence and determination in his usually quiet friend. Yeah. He rears back and hits the cart with his heart in hand. He expected to be met with a lot more resistance than he was when he realizes why that is. It's hollow? It is? Katori leans over to take a look. Shoto feels something inside, small packets of plastic wrapping with soft contents. Something that feels like salt or sugar. He takes out a pack to see some kind of purple substance, finely ground like dust. What is that? Katori asks. Narcotics, Yakamaru says. Our client is a smuggler on top of a doctor. Drugs, Katori gasps. Ganbi changes his demeanor, shifting from the happy person he played until now to an angry man. So you figured it out. How'd you know? Shoto asks. I saw him checking that particular side of the cart several times during our trip. I couldn't figure out why until a few minutes ago when I realized it could be a hidden compartment. But plenty of merchants have hidden compartments, right? Katori chimes in. It only makes sense. Yeah, Yakamaru nods. Until you factor in those guys. He points to their attacks. Them and the bandits. At first I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew I'd seen their tattoos and markings. They're from a land to the east of the land of water, and those markings belong to a particular family who control trade for this particular product. Shoto raises a brow. Why do you know about foreign drug trade? Yakamaru rubs the back of his head and laughs shyly. We actually learned about it in the academy during Sakura-sensei medic classes. It's actually a kind of medicine, but it's dangerous in the wrong doses, so it's highly illegal. And I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Ganbi waves his fist in frustration. Hold on. Shoto looks over the pack more closely. Is this the real thing? Ganbi leans in and stage whispers, that's actually just colored sugar. Shoto chuckles. Finally, a real answer. So, what happens now? Katori scratches her head. We figured out our client's a criminal, but what now? Is the exam over? Shoto wonders. I don't think it is, Yakamaru shakes his head. Our mission was to get the medicine to the village. That part should still be true. Then let's get moving. Katori takes out a rope from her backpack and ties the criminal Ganbi up. With that, they make their way to their destination. First exam. End. At the village, Team Naruto are met by a team of hidden mist examiners who nod in acknowledgement. Well done reaching this point. So do we pass? Katori asks in excitement. That's not for us to decide. The shinobi looks back to the examiner. Gonbi walks past Team Naruto and hands them their rope, apparently having escaped a while ago, but kept up appearances for the duration of the exam. He stands in front of his colleagues and raises his hand in the traditional sign, index and middle finger pointed upward and ring and pinky curled. Team Naruto of the Hidden Leaf Village. Katori Uzumaki, Yakimaru Kagatsu, Shoto Tessen. Under the name Gonbi, I declare their exam is successful. He turns around and smiles at the genin. Congratulations. Yes. Katori jumps from joy. Shoto and Yakimaru breathe a sigh of relief. Gonbi points to a nearby building. That's where you can go and rest while we wait for all the teams to finish. They make their way inside with a hop to their step, overjoyed that they've succeeded, but trying to not show it too much. Well, aside from Katori, who's very visibly ecstatic. They open the door to find that other teams are already inside. Lining the walls are several tables with various treats and food for the examinees to eat as they wait. Some genin who have already passed the exam are eating by the tables, while others are simply sitting wherever and waiting for the final date to officially end. In particular, Shoto notes the Hidden Mountain team, Bunten Kurisuki's team, and Tsukasa's team are already here. From their friends, they spot Mutsu and his teammates here, and more importantly, Team Shino. Kashiwama waves at them as soon as he spots them. Hey, you made it. Took you long enough, Jiriki says. Oh, yeah? Shoto steps forward. How long did it take you? We pretty much solved the secret task right away. Jiriki shrugs. I assume you found out about it eventually. Jiriki saw the narcotics right after we started when he activated his Byakugan. Genzai explains. That's hardly fair, is it? Shoto shakes his head. It took us a bit longer than that. Yakimaru says shyly. Genzai shrugs. Shouldn't matter how long it took. We just had a bit of an advantage thanks to Jiriki. Yeah, it's not important who finished first or second, that's not what this exam is about. Kashiwama says. But if it was, we totally beat you. Just so we're clear. Jiriki says to Shoto. I'm sure you'll have fun basking in your minor victory. Shoto retorts. Katori goes around to high-five Mutsu for passing the exam, as well, and waits for further news. Not long after, Team Samui enters the building and Katori runs to hug her, Heiai, and Kitsui. Team Mitsuri follows a couple hours after that. Team Shino greet Hifumi Tsujibashi when the Hidden Moon team enters the buildings of winners, and Team Naruto greet Taisa Amajiri when he and his Hidden Dream teammates arrive. Over at the Hidden Mist Communications Tower, Tessen and Kokage have a dejected look to them. Tessen takes a deep sigh. Well, I guess we'll try again next year. We got close, just not close enough. Kokage joins him in the sighing. Naruto pats them both on the back. Hey, your genin did a good job. They'll have it in the bag next exam for sure. I suppose congratulations are in order for you too, Tessen addresses Naruto and Shino. It's up to your teams to show what the Hidden Leaf's made of. We won't let you down, Shino bows his head. The door opens at this point, a Hidden Mist official entering with hands full of folders. She looks over the four jonin and smiles as she hands each of them a folder. These are the reports from the examiners about your students' performances. If you've further questions, you may request to speak with them directly. Thank you. The sensei each take their team's report. Kokage Yanagikage, Tessen Tajito, you're free to go to your teams as you please. Naruto Uzumaki, Shino Aburame, I ask you to wait a bit longer so all sensei can enter together. All right, Naruto nods. Very well, Shino bows his head. Well, this is where we part ways. See you around, you two. Tessen takes his leave. Kokage follows suit, keep up the good work. Naruto sighs and begins flipping through the folder, although his mind is already preoccupied with what's to come next. 32 teams passed. 96 genin. And by the second exam, only half of that will remain, Shino adds. At the end, Katori clocks the present genin at about 100 and notes that the other two Hidden Leaf teams are nowhere to be found. Just as they begin to wonder if any more teams will show up, the examiners and the Jonin sensei of the present teams all enter and take station against one of the walls, standing opposite the genin. The Hidden Mist examiner who introduced the exam to them steps forward and looks over all present. Well done to all 32 teams that passed the first exam. You all showed a keen eye and quick wit and a knack for problem solving. You've done your sensei and your villages proud today. Take a well-earned rest before the second exam begins. With that, the Hidden Mist officials take their leave and the genin flock to their sensei to celebrate. Katori skips up to Naruto and throws herself at him into a hug. We made it. Naruto laughs, so you did. Good job, all of you. You should have seen how much butt we kicked. I did. I saw the whole exam on the cameras. Cameras? Shoto raises a brow. What cameras? There were cameras placed everywhere to keep track of your progress. We didn't see any cameras, Yakimaru in a worried voice, now knowing that they apparently missed something that should be so obvious. Naruto chuckles and pats him on the head. Don't worry about it too much. You're Genin, trying to become Chunin. There are still things at a higher level. You'll get there. He gives him a wink. Right. Yakimaru nods. Hey, Dad, can we go celebrate? Katori asks. Well, I don't see why not. My treat, come on. Katori grins and turns to all her friends gathered in the room. Team Shino, Team Samui, Team Fio, Team Mitsuri, as well as Hifumi and Taisa. Hey, guys. We're going to celebrate Dad's treat. Naruto's eyes widen. Wait, I didn't. That's very generous of you, Naruto-sensei. Matsu bows. I am a little hungry. Kitsui rubs his stomach. The Genin all head out together to decide where they want to go to eat. Naruto starts counting just how many Genin are part of this friend group and wonders if he brought even remotely enough Ryo on him. Samui pats Naruto on the back as she passes by him. Oh, man. Naruto sighs. End of chapter 86.